Great. So we're going to open the Waitsfield Selectboard meeting for Monday, August 24th. Are there any additions, removals, or modifications to the meeting agenda pursuant to 1 VSA Section 312D4? I do want to say we have some items to discuss in executive session today. We spelled them out as being personnel issues related to wastewater easements and the town garage construction contract. We also do plan, in all likelihood, to deliberate on the first item on the agenda relating to the potential violation of the animal control ordinance in executive session. So we should add that to the list. And is there another contract? We'll likely not talk about the fire pond in executive session.
No, the other contract is for the Meadow Road Bridge, Tyler Billingsley.
Okay, and that's a sole source. Okay. Is there anybody here for the public forum? And that's for an item that's not on the agenda that won't otherwise be discussed? Great. Okay.
Just say that one more time.
Anybody on Zoom here for the public forum, and that's if you have any comments or questions about an item that's not on the agenda. Great, thanks. So the first item on the agenda is a hearing on the alleged violation of the domestic animal control ordinance, the dog attack on the goats on town property, on the fairgrounds property, and the floodplain portion. And our goal tonight is to review the incident, to continue the discussion that we started 2 weeks ago, and give the select board direction on any actions that we might be able to take. It's a fairly limited scope in that we're restricted by what our animal control ordinance gives us authority to do, and so we're acting under the authority given to us through that to decide whether there's been a violation of that and what appropriate actions, if any, should be taken as a follow-up. We did have an opportunity to hear a portion of the background, certainly the goat herders, owners report, some other issues about dogs related to the other dog incident that we've had in town recently. We typically run a fairly informal meeting, maybe to a fault. But I do want to handle this as a public hearing in accordance with Robert's rules. So what we're going to do is ask people to direct your comments to the board, because this is an opportunity for the board to gather information and understand the facts as we can receive them tonight, and not have kind of cross conversations with other parties here, so we can just kind of limit the board's ability to understand the issues. What I'd like to do is first start with our animal control officer's report. Fred Messer has done a lot of outreach to make sure he understood different perspectives of people who were involved, parties to the event, including the dog owner and the handler at the time, who weren't available to attend at the last meeting. And he did file a report for the select board, which we only became available in a final form today, that the board received this afternoon. So first we'll ask Fred to summarize that, and then I'd like to hear from the folks we didn't hear from at the last meeting, and I'm assuming, I don't recognize everybody, but I'm assuming at least some of you are here. I recognize Mary Beth, of course, are here for this. So, Deidre?
Yes.
Okay, and the dog's owner is?
He said he's running a little bit late. I did call him on the way.
Okay, is he planning to attend?
Yes, I ensured that he is going to be here. He said he'll probably be 5 minutes late, so he should be here any moment.
Okay, I think we're going to get started with Fred's report. Hopefully he can show up any minute. And then Deidre, I guess we'll turn to you, and then the owner, and then Mary Beth, if you have anything to add. I understand that you do have some additional information that would be helpful to the select board, so we'd appreciate hearing that from you guys. And just so I understand what to expect, Mr. Centerfed? Okay, so you're here for the third item on the agenda. Great, thank you. Fred, you want to summarize from there?
Certainly. Well, as Brian mentioned, a lot of this information has been trickling in over time, and I have been somewhat challenged putting it together. What between getting hold of people in a timely manner and Mr. Morris is in Iceland on work with limited telephone services and prevented a timely posting of this report to the Select Board. So the Select Board just got the full report today. Following is a sequence of events leading to and immediately afterwards the killing of 3 goats belonging to Mary Beth Herbert, as best as I can recreate these events. On Thursday, August 8th, 2026, at approximately 6:15 p.m., Miss Dar was carrying laundry from the laundromat at Bindler's Green in Waitsfield to her car. An Alaskan Husky named Shadow was in the car. The car was a Tesla, which has an air conditioning feature for animals left inside while the car was parked. Upon opening the door, Shadow bolted out of the car. His lead rope had been chewed in 2. The lead rope had been secured to the headrest of one of the seats. Shadow ran at high speeds through Fiddler's Green, crossed the Mad River, and jumped a 4-foot-high fence containing 28 goats owned by Mary Beth Herbert. Ms. Herbert was under contract with the town of Waitsfield as part of a Japanese knotweed eradication program. Ms. Dar called friends for assistance while running after Shadow, swimming the river, and running into the goat pasture. In time, Miss Dar's boyfriend and 2 friends arrived and attempted to catch Shadow, who was attacking the goats. They were unsuccessful in capturing or stopping his attack. About 20 to 30 minutes later, Miss Herbert arrived to perform her evening checks of her goat herd. She broke off the dog's attack by throwing stones at him. The second dog was present but did not participate in the attack on the herd. It is unclear where the second dog came from or whom owned it. Miss Herbert called her vet, who arrived on scene quickly. It was determined at that time that 2 of the goats had to be put down, and the third one received first aid. Miss Dar tried to give Miss Herbert her contact information, but due to the gravity of the situation with the goats, Miss Herbert was unable to accept the information at that time. In the interim, the 26 remaining goats broke out of their enclosure and proceeded up the steep slope of Rule Ledges. It was not until the early Friday morning, August 9th, that Miss Herbert and a group of volunteers managed to herd the goats back into their pasture enclosure. During this process, a 3rd goat had been put down because of the injuries from the dog attack. Findings. Because the dog was restrained by 2 methods. 1, it was restrained on a leash secured within the car, and the other being inside the closed car. Miss Dar had taken adequate precautions to prevent the dog from running at large within the town of Waitsfield. I therefore believe that this was a most unfortunate accident. Miss Dar acted responsibly by seeking help immediately, tried to catch the dog before it attacked the goats, and willingly provided Miss Herbert with her contact information. I find the dog, named Shadow, owned by Keith Morrison of Johnson, Vermont, meets the definition of a vicious dog. I find the town of Waitsfield delinquent in establishing a civil ticket writing system compliant with Superior Court Judicial Bureau in accordance with the provisions of 24 VSA Section 1974A. Respectfully submitted, Fred R. Messer, Waitsfield Animal Control Officer.
Just, Mr. Morris?
Yes,
You didn't miss much. Fred had just started going through the report. He's Fred Messer, the animal control officer you've talked to. What you did miss was that this is a semi-formal meeting. We're operating in accordance with Robert's rules. So I'm going to ask people to be recognized before they speak, direct your comments to the board, and not have cross conversations with other parties, because this is really intended for us to understand the issues and ask questions. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Fred?
I have a question about the definition of a vicious dog. Where is that definition?
Yeah, it's an older term. I probably should
Okay.
use the term that's used more frequently now that is in our ordinance, aggressive behavior.
And just also, two other just comments about, I understand the unfortunate circumstances that allowed the dog to get away, but the dog was running free without supervision. How it got there, you explained.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm not sure I'm going to take exception to the word delinquent, but we have not gone through the process of having our officers, animal control officer and other town officials other than our constable, to be registered with Superior Court in order to issue tickets. And that's something that in the past we have done, going through that process, and your recommendation is we do it again. Great. So, Ms. Starr, can we start with you?
Please.
If you'd like,
No, yeah, of
welcome
course.
to come up. If you have any comments, you want to add anything or respond to any of the comments that Fred made?
I did make some notes because I did take an opportunity to go over the meeting that there was before. Thank you for making it clear that I was responding. When I did get the phone call at 1 p.m. on 10th, it was my dad's birthday, I was cooking him dinner, working the yard, didn't see it till 10 p.m. When you called the following morning, I did answer. Then we made a plan. I immediately came down and took the day off of work to make sure that I prioritized this. So thank you for making that clear. Additionally, I made some notes just about how we did not leave the site. Our main priority was to make sure that the goat got care immediately. I called my landlord. I asked him to talk or send me the contact, if he knew the contact for anybody that was involved with the goats, as well as anybody that he knew that might be in animal control in the area. While this happened, she was very timely to come up, which was incredible. You are a shining star in that. Although we were all making an effort, she definitely was the leader of the pack when it came to getting it handled. I guess additionally, yes, although I made all of the attempts to restrain the animal to not the best of my ability, unfortunately. But, even with the negligence that there was a blank area in my responsibility, there was not a negligence when it came to giving up on the fight by any means. And so I do appreciate all the work you've done. Otherwise, I can answer any questions that you may have.
Anybody?
So the dog is not from Waitsfield?
No, I am from Waitsfield though, and that's how she got in contact with me. I did say my name, but Deirdre Dar. It's a hard thing to find. My dad owns Starrett Services. I told her, if she does want to get in contact with me, she can get contact with me there. That's when Fred went there, talked to my family, and they contacted me. But we had already gotten in contact because they gave him my phone number. So.
Did you have experience dog sitting this dog before?
No, this is my first experience dog sitting the dog. I've known the dog for a while, but not personally been its handler. I walked it on the streets of Burlington countless times. We went and did dogs. He was very adamant about making sure that we went to the dog park, that, we had an introductory time before he left me with the dog. So I did have experience with him and the dog. That's why this was so shocking to me, because he did do his due diligence.
When you say him, you mean?
I mean Mr. Morris, excuse me, yes. He did the thing where we went to the dog parks, he saw how handling him was. We've actually even spent time at the Warren Dog Park. And whenever because luckily you can see people coming from a long time. If I saw another person coming with their dog, I would immediately put them into the second chamber, those two different spaces, let them know, hey, this is not my dog. Putting them, just give me a moment, put them in the other chamber, from the other chamber, they were fine through the fences, and then we would exit the other exit and kind of be done with our day there. But this is my first experience with Shadow, personally being its independent handler. I have walked in, but only with Keith with me, Mr. Morris.
Any other questions or?
Presumably the dog's no longer in Waitsfield. It's
No.
back in Johnson or wherever you're from. Great.
Just a question, if you
had a warning or knowledge that the dog liked to run like that, or was it just kind of
I knew he was a runner, I knew he was an escape artist. I did not know that he had any malintent any other way, because I have seen him around other animals and people, and he's always just been a little sweet, kind nuzzler. I do know that the instincts of a husky are different than other instincts of most breeds. So I already obviously not naive to that, but I definitely did not. I may have let my ego be a little bit more, because I have handled so many dogs and not had any experience like this at all. So I may have let my ego perhaps blind me from the true potential of what worst case scenario could have been. Although I will say, no intentions of chasing this dog around for hours, let alone it hurting anything. You know, not anybody's dream to have that happen. So.
I don't want to go off in too much of an aside, but I'm just curious about, the car has an air conditioning unit that keeps going even when it's turned off?
Yeah, it's called pet mode.
Okay, that's another thing.
No, it's convenient. It certainly is convenient, yes. Yeah, he was like, you have to take the Tesla, and I was like, oh no, I like my car. And he's like, no, because he likes the dog needs to be with somebody. This, God forbid somebody does go, my partner goes into the house and locks the door. We wanted to make sure that, we had full rein on Shadow. It is my fault in the end of the day. He did do his best to warn me of the possibilities of him running away. I just did not know to what extent the runaway activities maybe.
Any other questions? Mr. Morse, you want to kind of join us
Sure.
and add your
Should I
thoughts
just move
or
over?
any responses or questions
there.
or comments that you have?
Either way, whatever you prefer.
Thanks for it.
And if anybody has questions, let's wait until they get done and we'll be able to raise them. And just for, I'm not sure if anybody else is here for this who's not kind of with Mary Beth, if anybody's on Zoom, there'll be an opportunity to weigh in as well.
Thank you for the opportunity to address the town. As a farmer and ecological design professor, I deeply respect and understand the work that's being done by the town and the goats and the goat keepers. And there's, it's a tragedy. It's a tragedy. There's, it's completely unacceptable for I have livestock myself. And there's nothing that can be done to replace animals that have been cared for. Although I certainly hope to, make effort to compensate or whatever, something, find something that repairs this in some way. I've never lived in Waitsfield or Warren, but I first skied at Sugarbush at 3. I taught as one of the core faculty members of Yes Tomorrow as they started doing ecological design courses in addition to home design build. And then when they started doing certificate programs, became the core faculty of that. So I've been working at Yes Tomorrow over 20 years at this point, or 22 maybe. Which actually, how I met Deirdre's mother, who was brought on when Yes Tomorrow first started a meal program as the head chef at Yes Tomorrow. I've never lived here, but I'm, deeply connected to this community and care very much for this community. My students include Kevin Wood of the Woodcraft Farm and Marissa Morano of the Plowgate Creamery. I helped design the floodplain farm there, which now has the bean crafters. And in fact, considered when there was a request for proposals, I considered moving my fruit and nut tree nursery there. And then as a board member of Salvation Farms, I kind of decided that they were the first tenants, if I'm not mistaken. If you know the farm, I can't remember the name of the farm. Point being, I care for this community, I care for the work being done in its floodplains in particular. And none of that makes up for the behavior of my dog. And I lament this tragedy. My dog, I'm not gonna split hairs, but he's certainly not a vicious dog in terms of people or other dogs ever. But the prey drive in a husky is such that, frankly, he can't be trusted with cats, rabbits, and apparently goats. I've had chickens, and believe me, I've tried. As a bird keeper, I raised him with chickens, and it's almost a year before he kind of broke training and pack identity, and I realized he was just not compatible with livestock. Which is why typically I was on a metal lead, and in a car, a fabric lead makes sense.
Oh, yeah, it's sort of connection
And
to
it should be said too, that I've had a few different dog sitters, and Deirdre's been one of the most capable and competent. He's not an easy dog, especially when he's not with me. Huskies are bred, like his whole lineage is as a sled dog. Genetically, they have no connection to a place, and they bond with their pack, and they move with their pack, which is why he's typically like traveling with his keeper. But I'm his person, and when he's not with me, fortunately he's bonded well with Deirdre, but like he's a different dog too. He's nervous and he's looking for me. It may have been brought up the last time he was with a different dog watcher. He was roaming Burlington, and the places he went was like the places I frequent in Burlington, like literally looking for me. So none of that makes any excuses. I take full responsibility for my dog, and I want to, make this right to the best of my ability. I have a dump truck and tools and a capable farmer. I'm so sorry.
I know, you've been in touch with Mary Beth, and because our kind of authority is have you been in touch with Mary Beth?
I haven't directly. I did receive the video and an invoice that from Fred while I was overseas, and made effort to stay in direct communication with Fred while overseas.
The invoice wasn't from me, I relayed it.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah. I wanted the opportunity to see what came of this, and to offer to, the specific. I don't think the details of the invoice are the concern of the town, to my understanding. It isn't financially feasible, a $5,000 invoice, but I intend to do what it takes to repair the damage done.
Any questions or comments from the board?
Yeah, that's a civil matter. We'll be determining.
There's no number you can put on cared animals. I understand that.
This proceeding tonight is there a violation of our town ordinance? So the reparation is a separate issue. The two of you will.
This is the first we've had opportunity.
We need to know what our is to take action if there is any opportunity for remediation or anything else. Anything else?
So clarifying really quickly, when you said your dog had gone to a number of different places in Burlington, was your dog at large at that point, or your dog was?
I know it's been brought up that he was loose in Burlington, and I provide the context that was while he was in care of another person, because he isn't an easy dog. He's a working dog. We ski jor, we bike jor, we skateboard jor, and his favorite is ice skate. He's a pet though. He's totally friendly. He's been with my children since they were babies. He can't be trusted around chickens, rabbits, cats, and apparently goats. He didn't cause any malice in Burlington other than, he as a sled dog, he also doesn't want to be caught, and his favorite thing is to show you who can run faster if you try.
Even in the house sometimes.
Which is a part of the, if you get closer to a dog on skis, the dog has to go faster or it's disastrous. And I wish I could claim training for that. It's in the breed. he knows how to mush, like, genetically. He's an Alaskan Husky mother and a Siberian Husky father.
Anything else? Yeah. So you guys want to come up and?
Sure.
I think Anna's going to go first.
I can present some incident.
And I apologize, we didn't go around and introduce ourselves. And I'm Brian Trufant, the chair of the board.
I'm so sorry.
Why don't we go around really quickly? We should have done this in first.
Larissa Armstrong, I'm the vice chair.
Josh Curtis, Select Board.
Fred.
You know me, Fred Messer, Select Board member and Animal Control Officer for the town of Waitsfield.
And Dave Babiclan on the Select Board.
And your Cabot Cancer Town Administrator.
I'm Anna Church. I'm a friend of Mary Beth's and was there shortly after the incident, and I've just been helping with sort of gathering some information.
Mary Beth Herbert, grazing manager. I'll let Anna start with things that we collected from the town clerks and insurance departments.
We were just wondering if there had been previous incidents with this dog, and I don't know what this information, how it will factor into all of this, but we just wanted to have some more context, and we're able to place a public records request up in Burlington for issues related to Keith Morris and Shadow, as well as the Lamoille County, was this the sheriff's? Okay. And I'll do my best to summarize. There's some information that isn't pertinent, a few incidents dating back that they have records of in Burlington, but just to quickly summarize, there's multiple incidents going back to 2022 where the dog was at large, and the police department was called, and a few different outcomes. We've passed this along to Fred and can certainly
This is in Burlington?
Try and summarize. This is all in Burlington. So on 10/12/22, Mr. Morris was given a verbal warning on not letting his dog loose. This was the second incident of the dog being at large. In March of 2025, Shadow, the dog, was, I'm not sure, it's not totally clear if there was maybe a call put in, but in any case, there was an officer that arrived on scene, spotted the dog. The dog was weaving in and out of traffic and trying to mount random dogs he came across. The officer in that case caught the dog and brought the dog to Lucky Puppies, which I'm assuming is some sort of kennel. That was the time I think that Mr. Morris already alluded to. That was when he was in Japan for another week. There was an update about a week later. They were unsuccessful in determining the owner of the dog. The officer had not gotten complete information from the handler at the time, and then there was a further update which doesn't have a date attached. And they were able to contact Keith Morris and issued a ticket for the dog at large, as well as a ticket for a rabies tag. I'm not sure that Keith, it appears that Keith, for this particular incident, didn't provide any proof of rabies vaccination, and so there was a ticket issued for that as well. And then January 15th, 2026, this is also in Burlington. There was a call about a loose husky in the area. While searching for the dog, the officer spoke to a passerby who stated that Keith Morris at that point had already secured the dog. Mr. Morris stated that the lead had broken. And it sounds like there was no ticket or citation for that particular incident. And then on January 31st, so this was a couple weeks later, the dog was, there were multiple calls about the dog being at large, and it had bitten a dog at Roosevelt Park. So lots of people, it sounds like, were involved in trying to capture the dog and were unable to leash the dog. Eventually, Keith arrived and was able to get the dog. At this point, he provided vaccination records, and he was warned about penalties for violating the city ordinance. And this was, he was issued a municipal ordinance violation for his dog being at large.
That woman did not press charges, as I recall.
Yeah, she neglected. I think that the officer spoke with her about an option to push for a nuisance animal ticket for the bite, but she did not wish to push that forward. So that is Burlington, and then more notably so the dog is registered in Jeffersonville, and I believe Mr. Morris can maybe clarify a little bit about this incident. But on the May 24th of this year, his dog killed a goat inside a cage, inside a crate that was, the dog had wandered from a mile away. The owner of the goat was able to grab the leash of the dog and tie it to a gate, and upon arrival, the officer took the dog to some nearby houses to find the owner, and eventually received information that the dog is from Willows Crossing Farm, and the officer spoke with Keith Morris about keeping his dog secure. Keith stated he would compensate Deborah for the troubles his dog caused. His dogs, it's plural here, and there's no clarification. I don't know that there's multiple dogs involved in this incident. For the troubles his dogs caused, and says I gave this information to Deborah and gave her my condolences for the loss of her show goat. And then a few days later, 2 days later, on the 26th of May, the dog was, I think there was a call that the neighbor's dog the caller seemed to have known that the dog had recently killed a goat, called to say that the dog was running loose again. And I believe Keith was found it sounds like the dog escaped out of his Tesla. Let's see, I met with the ACO while driving down the driveway of Willows Crossing Farm. The dog jumped out of the tall grass and we were able to catch him. The dog's name is Shadow. We spoke with the owner, Keith, and he was in the driveway sleeping in his Tesla with all the windows down. Keith advised he was sorry and the dog must have jumped out. I told him about the bad history with his dog and to keep it under control. The ACO stated she would be checking with Jeffersonville Town to make sure the dog is registered and has its rabies vaccine. The ACO let him know there would be tickets issued as the dog had gotten out multiple times now. Later I received a call, this isn't totally clear to me, but it says later I received a call from the ACO that the dog was loose and was being taken to the kennel, so I'm not sure if this was a separate incident that same day. And in addition to that, speaking to the Jeffersonville town administrator, was it, who had a personal incident where she was chasing the dog down.
Yeah, not a signed statement. She just expressed trying to essentially round the dog up / help, to be met with, stay away from the dog, which would make sense if this dog was going to bite her, but, we've heard that the dog was good with people. Before I indict the dog more though, because to my understanding, and I would like to be corrected if this is wrong, the dog sitter, Deirdre, you knew that this dog was a runner, but you were not informed that it had killed an animal, a goat, or that it had bit a dog?
No.
So, to me, it just feels like this is the responsibility of the human, who has talked about the instincts of the animal, and I really, for whatever this is worth, I've killed enough animals of recently, I don't want to feel responsible for another one. I'd rather see the dog owner have to erect an 8-foot-high impermeable fence that's dug 2 feet into the ground. I would rather see just some other outcome, because I like, but the evidence
So I appreciate that. I'd say that all of these happened outside of our jurisdiction. I take this, though, as your providing background, useful background about the risk and threat that the dog might pose to Waitsfield if in town in the future, and that should inform our actions. Is that fair?
I just want to reiterate that it's the owner and not, that the risk is the handler of this animal, not necessarily the owner.
Any questions? Or- I just got to, Mr. Morris,
If I may.
there is a track record here.
And I'd be happy to respond to questions again regarding that information. In terms of the quote-unquote bite in Burlington, there wasn't charges pressed because there wasn't injury. This was rough. My dog has never injured another dog. There was certainly reason to be concerned about a dog on the loose in terms of the Jeffersonville town, whomever. I've asked people not to chase my dog, which only exacerbates his speed and adrenaline and plays his game his way, which is wanting to, he thinks it's a game. He wants to be chased. He wants people to run after him and show them that he wants to play catch me if you can, and guess what? You can't. We can't. So again, I take responsibility for my dog. He was taken into the Lamoille County Kennel regarding the goat incident. It just never came up. It wasn't something I felt. We had very little time in transition. I oriented her to like the most essential things of my dog. It simply didn't come up that he'd killed a goat. It really wasn't on my mind. But I certainly said, like, please make sure he's nowhere near cats and rabbits, and like he has a prey drive. That was made clear. I didn't intentionally withhold that information from her or anyone, I'm not entirely sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess thanks, but my reaction initially is you were just up here before talking about your dog's history, and the only picture that we got from that was that it had been loose in Burlington one time, and obviously now that it killed a goat before would be front of your mind, and yet it didn't come up in your initial statement.
I was fully aware that information was going to be presented tonight. Again, I certainly see its relevance, but I'm trying to take responsibility for my pet, who is not aggressive to non-prey. And unfortunately, rabbits, chickens, cats, and goats are seen by him as prey. He's never been the least bit aggressive towards small dogs, as some huskies and other breeds may be, or a human being. He is intact, and that's a part of his drive to wander, perhaps, and roughhousing with other dogs, or aggressive responses by other dogs to that fact. But he's always been in hand, so to speak.
I guess just follow up is, so it sounds like at least, I kind of lost count a tiny bit, but 4, 5, 6 off-leash incidents? Seven?
He's certainly been loose. I think there's several that are the same incidents with different reports or different tickets or ticketing late. Like, for instance, I was provided tickets when out of the country and the dog was in care of a different dog watcher.
So I guess just to give you the opportunity to, how many incidents do you think it is?
In terms of tickets or formal, there's 2.
Or no, not just tickets or formal incidents.
How many times has he been off the leash? I mean, he's been off the leash many, and he's turning 8 in November. He's been off the leash beyond dozens of times, and it's normally nothing. I recover him, and in fact, I love it when he can run and he stays with me on a trail, etc. But I don't do that anymore because it's not worth those occasions when he catches a scent of something, or decides to play catch me if you can. But he's a well-behaved dog. He does stick with me, unlike even his parents, would run and just be found 7-8 miles away. If I go if I let him lead, who knows where we go. If I chase him, he's running the show. So people wonder why, if my dog's loose, I may head away from him, because he sticks with me and he goes, I take him away from traffic or away from a, place that there's more potential for trouble. Certainly if there was any kind of direct interaction, I would immediately intervene, but I've never personally witnessed any aggression of my dog towards other dogs other than roughhousing or occasional mounting, which neither of those do I tolerate either, frankly.
When Shadow was, these instances when the Shadow was off leash,
Yes.
was some of these times in Johnson?
He's certainly been off leash in Johnson, in Jeffersonville, in Burlington, and it's usually not a problem, though. It's
Not
usually
on your property.
he used to be. I used to let him loose at the end of my driveway, and then he'd come to me. When I get in, it's like a quarter mile into the greenhouses and things at my farm, and I'd get him there. And then he kind of caught wind of that being the routine, and instead of, he'd come up and greet me and say, thanks for letting me run in the driveway, and then go off. And so that's stopped. And I'm
Because
absolutely...
you're aware that Johnson has a leash law.
I've never intentionally let him run just loose. He's never had, and this goat in May was the first of any need for intervention of any type of situation.
Okay, thank you.
Did you have something else, Mary?
Well, I'd spoken with Deirdre, and it's like, can the dog be fixed? Because that is another...
He will be fixed, because, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, all right. I did just want to say, though, that, my dog...
I agree with that.
Okay, and then, good. My dog, I can attest to, this dog did not attack my dog. Thank God my dog just had her instincts to protect the goat, and then as I started to run after the dog, she did come with me. But so I don't know how to be responsible and say, let's not kill the dog.
In direct response, I was told specifically not to fix him at the normal schedule because of his work, and that point being, now he's at an age where there's downsides, and I'm entertaining that regardless, and I certainly take heed of that recommendation, and we don't disagree.
I appreciate that it's limited in scope as far as what all of you can do here, but I'm just curious if, obviously, since these incidents are happening across at least 3 different towns and possibly more, is there any sort of coordination for dogs, whatever that sort of classification you mentioned earlier, aggressive dog, or you amended it to aggressive behavior or vicious dog versus aggressive behavior.
Yep.
The only reason that we came across this is because of just looking up and seeing a Facebook post and then wondering, where else, and doing a public records request, and we never would have done that, and I just worry about the other towns where something could happen again.
Fred, do you have any response to that? I mean, all the recent issues with dogs we've had have all been homegrown local dogs, and we actually did rule that a dog had to be moved out of town within the last 2 years because it was reoccurring threat to the neighbors. So we, to be really honest, we are a little bit struggling with what our jurisdiction is. It would be great if we could say, something holistically to fix it. We're not a civil court, so we only have so far we can go in terms of what our ordinance allows us to do with regard to warnings. We have some limited finding ability or restricting the dog's activity in town. So we're going to have to sort through that. And we will issue a written finding with any action that we're going to take.
I hope there isn't need for any enforcement. I'm happy to willingly agree. I appreciate this mediated space and the opportunity to address concerns. And, I'd hope that we find something that's satisfactory, that without the need to, whether you have jurisdiction or not.
Are you here for this?
Yes.
Would you like to?
Sure. I'm here on behalf of the Mad River Path. Emily Bellevaux, Waitsfield resident on the board of the Mad River Path. Nothing major to add. Just wanted to let you all know that as a path, we're happy to work with you all in partnership as whatever is needed around ordinances and dog ordinances on our trails. So just wanted to mostly be a witness and also state that we're happy to help support.
I appreciate your coming, and I'm glad that you raised that, because this and the other incident on the path was a real wake-up call for us with enforcement, and York has begun the process of reaching out to the Chamber of Commerce, the path, Neck of the Woods, who is an owner of a portion of the path, who is highly impacted by loose dogs. So we are looking at how to do a better job as a community of enforcing the ordinance and making sure this doesn't happen again.
Yeah, one other just small note, I forget where I read this, but unleashed dogs and poops on trails are some of the most significant reasons why trails are closed, or why landowners don't provide easements or want to extend trails. So I do think this does have impacts on the quality of our trails.
My recollection is the trail was on the Neal farm for many years, and it was a great And the only reason that I remember Helen and Andy closed it was loose dogs dragging rocks up out of the river and leaving them in the field. So I think there were a lot of different dog issues that led them to close the path. So that's just what I'm saying. Anybody online, Gail O'Keefe is a member of the Conservation Commission, attended the last meeting. Just to remind folks, this did not happen on private property, it happened on public property. Mary Beth is under contract with the town to help with knotweed management. The goats have been doing a great job this is the third year. So that complicates it for us, because it wasn't some private property owner who may or may not have given permission. It was on town property, and we clearly had not given permission for unleashed dogs on the property. Mary Beth?
York, I think, is aware, though, that I have basically, I don't know if you'd say I've terminated the contract. It is basically being handed over to a grazing outfit who runs with livestock guardian dogs, because I felt like that was the only responsible response that I could have. So
I will say one exemption to the dog ordinance, check me if I'm wrong, is working dogs who are doing herding and farm work. Gail, do you have anything to add?
No, thank you. I'm listening and grateful for everyone handling this in a responsible way.
Anyone else who's on Zoom, anything to add? Any other comments or any information?
I wanted to ask Mr. Morris again, kind of I know that you said that you like the dog to go with its keeper, but given what's been going on, what's the situation at home? Like, do you have a enclosure that is safe for the dog?
Yeah,
What's the fence
he's
situation?
entirely secure at the farm and my home in Jeffersonville, and I don't expect he'll ever be loose again, except for perhaps when people don't realize how problematic it can be once he's loose.
Is it a single gate? Like, what's the?
It's a
can you
metal
describe?
lead. It's a metal lead and like a run, like a clothesline wheelie pulley thing, so that he has, a lane. But he's with me everywhere I go, unless I'm physically unable to, such as in airplane travel. But everywhere I go, anywhere I go, he would rather be with me than be left at home. And, snowboard coaching, he's left at dog mode and walked at lunch and is happy to be in the car and it's like a crate, whereas leaving him at home, he's absolutely howling and just, it's a very common thing with Huskies, is separation anxiety to their primary caretaker.
Okay. But sorry to belabor the point.
Yeah.
It sounds like he's escaped from 2 dog walkers at least, is that right?
2, I mean, as I said, he's been loose more times than I can count without incident. These incidents don't have, I take responsibility and in ensuring that he won't be loose again, especially,
So 2 dog walkers, and then a bunch of times he's got loose from you, right?
Me, my children, people let the door open,
So I guess my question is, like, what is going to be different, where you can say he's not going to get loose again?
Well, the leash biting, the ability for him to bite through even a heavy rope leash in a single chomp needs to be explicitly clear to anyone who might might think that's secure, right? And you can only be on a metal leash. Not that the only time he tries to break out of the leash is if I walk away, or I guess if he sees, that's never happened before, where he's like bitten through a leash to reach animals.
So Keith, without hearing about that goat in Johnson, can you tell me, so that I can walk out of here with some kind of conscience left, that how did the dog leave your house and your property and cross, how far away was it, to your neighbors and kill the goat?
This is a point of order, folks, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, you're asking the question to the board, and I'd ask
Okay.
Keith
So
to
thank you.
respond to the board.
Okay, just directly,
Are you done with what information you'd like to hear?
How did it leave the property at home, because that's where this incident occurred, and make it to the neighbors to kill this goat?
So that morning, I had worked overnight. I pulled into my farm, parked my car, kicked the seat back with the dog in the car, and without necessarily the intention of falling asleep, but it happened pretty promptly. And he got through the window of the car, and I wasn't even aware. When I woke up, I was awoken by the police officer, as he says. This goat, I wasn't aware. She had just set it up directly across the street, less than a football field's length away.
So we're getting the facts of this incident. So I think we've already established that there's been, the dog has a pattern of roaming when given the chance, and can do damage to other animals. So is there anything else that we need to cover from the board's perspective?
I just had a question. It sounds like the dog travels with you frequently. Do you still work at Yes Tomorrow and bring the dog with you to town?
So that's a good question. I'm considering living at campus for the fall semester. That will not happen. And I'm certainly happy to make sure he is never loose in Waitsfield or Warren at all. And Fred had mentioned the potential of the dog being essentially banned from town, which I can certainly understand and accept. I most likely will teach a 2-week residential course sometime 27.
Yeah.
I don't have the dates yet, and we'll figure out arrangements for the first shadow.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
So given that you have adequate space at home for Shadow, and given these incidents, like when you do have something where you're traveling somewhere else, can you have him stay at home? And then when you do, if you have to go overseas again, can you have someone come to your house rather than?
Yes, yes. And it may not matter, but for context, again with the car, my farm is in Johnson, my home is in Jeffersonville, about 5 miles away, and he will cover that, because he knows the way along the rail trail, and it's just for context as to why. And then my 2 children are students at South Burlington Public Schools, and since COVID, I've had like a home office in Burlington to support my daughters in their sport games and things like that. So that's why he's always with me and not left. That's another reason why he's always with me and not left, and also why he feels completely happy and not concerned when left in the car versus if he's left at the house. And frankly, at the farm, he's usually okay. But if I can directly respond to the question, no, he won't be in Waitsfield. I'm happy to agree to that.
Okay, and sorry, this is my last question, I promise. I know you said you hoped there would be no enforcement, or I can't remember the exact words, significant enforcement.
What I said, if I may, I hope that we find something I agree to. I'm happy to agree without the need for.
But I assume you do not want the dog to be put down.
My understanding is that's not even possible.
What do you think should happen if this happens again?
I don't know, but it's to answer the question in terms of euthanization. I would need to involve an attorney, etc. It's not something that can be ordered for this type of.
No, but I'm talking about if you knew that your dog.
I'm going to do everything in my power to ensure that it won't.
But if it did happen again, so you're saying you wouldn't? You would just. Sorry.
I'm not sure what to say. If you're asking me if I would recognize that it's the humans, not the dog. As Mary Beth has stated herself, and find me or hold me accountable. Don't kill an animal, but you wouldn't have the authority to do so unless in like direct defense. Which I'm not mad if she threw rocks at my dog in this type of situation. It wouldn't.
Gail, you had your hand up?
Yes, I'm just wondering whether or not the select board or the animal enforcement officer can bar this dog from Waitsfield. Because clearly, as you said, that it's the humans around, but the humans have failed multiple times, and there are a lot of animal owners in town that really should not be subjected to this risk. And I think that regardless of your background at Yestermore or wherever, it doesn't matter. This dog is out of control and should not be allowed in town. That's my thought. Thank you.
That is something that we're going to consider, Gail.
I believe that is within the scope of
I
what
believe
we
it
are
is
allowed
within
to do. There is a limit to what.
And frankly, I wish we could say you need to compensate the owner for the loss. I think you mentioned that you did in Jeffersonville. I'm hoping that conversation is ongoing.
May I respond?
Yes.
So I'm happy to agree to the keeping Shadow out of Waitsfield with or without any need for enforcement of that. I'm happy to agree to that. And I certainly hope to do my best to make you whole somehow. And I know that you can't. There's nothing that can replace a cared for animal. I understand that. And
a livelihood.
And
okay.
But yes, I certainly take full responsibility and will do what I can do, and we'll continue this conversation.
Unless there's anything pressing, I would like to move on to the next 12 items on the agenda.
I do think it's probably worth just confirming that the select board used to have the power to, I think, impose compensation in a case like this. That is no longer, like statute has changed, that's no longer the case. So we can, through the animal ordinance, we can impose fines, we can ban an animal, etc. But I think to the extent you rightfully want and deserve compensation, that would have to be a kind of a civil matter between the two of you to account.
Thank you all.
I'm certainly open to feedback and recommendations, if not, from the town.
I think in terms of what to expect next, just wrapping this up, we're going to deliberate during executive session. There will be a written decision following that.
Exactly. So I appreciate your all's taking this seriously and your willingness to engage in a constructive way. And I hope that we never have to deal with it again. So thanks.
Okay.
We are going to move on to the next item on the agenda. Again, thank you.
Thank you again, I'm so sorry.
So we're going to move on to item 2, the Green Mountain Valley School Fall Orientation Event on Friday.
Can I have 60 seconds?
Yeah. So I'm going to move on even though he has. The Friday, September 11th, Sam Jackson was going to be here. Your fill in the blanks. This is an annual event, started last year. We approved it. It doesn't require a festival permit. Basically, it's an orientation program where they have like a relay through town on bikes, mountain bikes, hiking on trails, dirt roads, and some paved roads. They don't require approval from the town. We wanted to be aware of it. I believe York said, let Mervis know, let the fire station know, maybe let the sheriff know, just because you're going to be on public roads. I don't think it requires any action of the town.
There's going to be any sort of significant obstruction of roadways. I mean, I don't know the scope of this looks like, and for previous years, I'm just remembering marathon. I don't think it's going to be something quite that.
No more than 11 people at any one time.
At any one time, okay.
And they're going to be staggered.
And they work with Mervis, they have signage on the roads.
Super.
I mean, last year I think they went without incident, and they're very organized. So I don't see a problem, but he really wanted to make sure he did his due diligence to make sure that the town was cool with it. And so that's what this was.
I think also just communicating to the public that that's something to expect.
Yeah. So that's September 11th, which is a Friday.
You might want to suggest that he notify the Valley Reporter or do a little press release. Post on Portugal. Item 3, Planning Commission appointment. Consider appointing James Centerfit to fill the vacancy for the remainder of the 4-year term to begin 2026 and expires in 2030.
Thank you for coming.
Sure.
And you share your thoughts? The Planning Commission has nothing to do with dogs. Except regulating kennels has actually been an issue in the past.
Yes, so I know from my research.
And you signed your note, Jimmy.
Yes.
So just thanks for your interest in serving on the Planning Commission. It's an important position. I'm just curious if you have we read your short letter of interest. Do you have anything to add to that?
I don't think so.
How long have you been in town?
2 years full-time, 5 summers and Christmases.
Yeah.
My son and daughter-in-law moved to the extreme edge of Waitsfield, access through Moortown.
Oh, up off South Hill?
Right, in spring of '21. So we were retired on a sailboat that year and gave them our furniture and went off to Florida for a few winters. But it was crazier than bed bugs, so we gave up the ship, so to speak. traded it for a garden and granddaughters.
Yes.
And a nice little town, I must say. I do appreciate your patience. And I can't help but just say, because while you're still fresh on it, at the dog park, I think the sign at Meadow Street, Meadow Road Bridge at the park there, the sign, if I recall reading it my first year or two, it says there's a difference between the law in Warren and Moortown and Waitsfield, and it's confusing.
And that changed this spring, so that was accurate when the sign was put up.
Yeah.
And we used to require verbal control, and we changed our ordinance to require physical control.
Right. It seems subjectively hard to determine the what's in control or not. But I also do appreciate the fact that aggressive breeds are a challenge, and that consumers, residents, homeowners deserve some protection against the tendencies of aggressive breeds. Listening to this tonight was just a case study in why there needs to be some definition of what you can do when a repeat offender presents. So I wish you luck in sorting that one out.
It should be noted that Jimmy moved to town after we solved the Otis problem.
You would have visited South Hill.
Oh, yeah, he didn't have that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the work, particularly the challenges I see right now that Vermont faces as a whole, that most of this communities face. When I listened to the lieutenant governor and governor candidates, I told them I thought the biggest skill sets were needed now are reconciling competing interests and presenting clear, data-driven reports about the cost benefit of tough choices, because that's what life's going to be made of to a large degree with some of the stuff. My background's in healthcare, and I note that the challenge in Vermont right now to manage its healthcare scene is not unlike its education scene, too. It's a challenge.
Those aren't independent variables.
No, I know how they're connected, but what's curious is that what people have to come to grips with ultimately is you got to learn to live with a certain amount of numbers-driven decisions about how many threshold levels of critical mass and volume. So if I have a bias, it's simply that there got to be a lot of different ways. Or as I like to say, I don't really want to see many more houses on my idyllic road, but if I do, you're going to have to lower the speed limit. I can't take more traffic and more speed, one or the other. I enjoyed working with JB a little bit, rehabbing our house, and asking about what home business I might be able to do if I couldn't find enough other things to occupy myself. But
Do you have a home business?
no, I don't, but I've been a serial entrepreneur while also having a healthcare executive career. So finding something to do, I find a longing a little bit for being involved in commerce since I retired.
I think our home business rules are kind of flexible.
Yeah. Well, I am appreciative again of just some of those issues. I'll tell you a funny story. In Montana, our 8 years there, I went to a hot debate in Lincoln, Montana, as they debated lowering the minimum lot size from 160 acres to 40 acres. You'd have thought that double-wide trailer parks were going to move in. But that's the degree of perspective that it can be sometimes in that place. They needed to make 40-acre lots available so their kids could afford to leave home and buy a place next door. They couldn't afford 160 acre minimum pieces.
Jim, do you have experience on other public service, other boards in Massachusetts, Connecticut, other?
Mostly just volunteer work on legislative committees for healthcare and health insurance work. So that's all, not formal position.
Does zoning and town plans and things like that interest you?
Well, I did, I did appear before the zoning boards in Franklin, Hampshire, Hamden, and Berkshire County, Massachusetts, and found out at a couple of select board meetings when I said to the doctor whose practice we just bought, and we were asking to triple the size of his office from 1,000 square feet to 2,500. I said, what are all these people doing at the meeting tonight? He said, they're here to complain about your proposal. And I said, who could mind a doctor's office? Oh, welcome to Hadley, Massachusetts. So yeah, I got a chance to build healthcare facilities in all four, the three Western Mass and Berkshire County. I also worked on the short-term rental rollout in Boston and the B&B regs, because I was, again, looking for something to do, waiting for my wife to finish her career, so I bought a fleet of houseboats and cabin cruisers that were a B&B business. So, and in my neighborhood, I was siding one way on the need for B&B regulation, and at my business site I was understanding a different way in a different neighborhood, of course, zoning allowed, but I had experience trying to make rules fit up and down the East Coast and make cultures fit. So it's not easy. I guess I was a member of our neighborhood association committee in East Boston, Jeffries Point, for 6 years. I did serve on a couple of formal committees there. So,
How do you feel about drafting documents by committee?
oh, well, TD. I sat through a few planning commission meetings to be sure I could do it. Yeah, it's challenging work, but finding compromises is something I like doing. My healthcare career was spent brokering physician-hospital health plan relationships. That's like playing in a sandbox with bullies in every corner. But it is a part of I think the skill set you got to bring to public forums, because opinions don't get you home. Plans and outlines and thoughtful review and get you home. By the way, I agreed in my look for work, I agreed to run for Justice of the Peace. Fred assured me I wouldn't have to spend time in the town stocks taking tomatoes upside of the head if I didn't empathize with the grievance I might hear, but I do appreciate that to do good work, you gotta generally annoy everybody.
Nobody's complaining. You're not
Select board member.
So it's just, I should add that the planning commission did recommend the adoption of it. Any other questions?
You're saying planning commission
Recommended his appointment.
Okay. Thank you.
And I'll just finish, this is a 4-year term that expired in 2026. This is a brand new, basically started in March. So you'd be doing over 3.5 years.
Indentured servitude, I think it's dues paying.
The town plan is getting revised in like a couple of years.
Yeah, I think we have something coming to deal with the child care provision requirements, but I don't think a whole update's happening for a few years. Jonathan, do you have anything to add?
Nope. Sorry. I don't. I think Jimmy would be a great fit. As he said, he's come to a few meetings, and more power to him sitting through when he doesn't even have to. Yeah, I can confirm we do have a revision of our town plan to, I believe it's 2030 is what we said last meeting. We did actually just pass the child care amendment or the update language, and it was brought to CBRPC. There was some hiccup at the meeting that was supposed to approve it, not because of us, but because I think East Montpelier had a revision they had to do, and it was very contentious, and it sort of skewed everything, and then there wasn't quorum, and so I think we have to wait another month or so before they can adopt, or they can formally approve our amendment, but there was no indication that it wouldn't be, so that was the only remaining open piece. That will not extend our deadline, though, to renew the town plan, so that was just a requirement to finally formalize that our existing plan is totally done. I couldn't tell you the procedural status between now when it's actually finally adopted, finally approved, but I know it is effective currently.
A few years ago.
Anyway, that is work that's coming up.
A few years ago, the legislature changed the life of a plan from 5 years to 8 years, so there's a little bit more breathing room between adoption processes. So if there's any...
I got copies.
Thank you for that, too.
I got copies of the plans. JB said I was supposed to have them memorized by tonight, but gave me a week off.
We're not quizzing tonight.
Slow praying, thanks.
So if there's no other questions, I'll take a motion.
I would move to appoint James Centerfit to fill the vacancy on the planning commission for the remainder of the 4-year term that began in 2026.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, good luck in working out the dog trail business. Not easy sorting through.
Indeed. So the next item is the community wastewater ordinance. This is an
I'm
initial
going to beg out. I actually had planned to stay the whole time, but I got 10 minutes left to see my 6-year-old granddaughter on her birthday before it turns into a pumpkin.
Thank you.
No,
Thanks for sticking around.
I want to say this is like the dog days of summer.
Long time to come up with that.
Can I use that?
Absolutely.
This is because it's past Robin's bedtime. He's going to...
Absolutely. I should be sleeping now.
So this isn't going to be a long item on the agenda. We just wanted to provide a summary to the select board. This is, we talked about it at a recent meeting. This is coming our way. It's an important part of the wastewater puzzle. And Marissa raised at the last meeting, let's have a strategic and a structured approach to our ordinance adoption, especially something that's a new coordinated ordinance. So we just wanted to talk about next steps and what approaches we should be taking. You should know that Robin and I are meeting with an attorney tomorrow who's done a review of the ordinance. And I think initial review, but the initial review was complimentary and positive. Said that it was in good shape, but had some points he wanted to go over with us. And then it hasn't gotten public presentation, and I think that's important, especially so the potential users of the system understand what's in it, what the costs are, what their obligations are, how they're going to get an allocation, how good that allocation, how long it's good for, what it means, what the cost of the allocation is relative to the operating cost that is also included in the ordinance. The fact that allocations are owned by the town and they're basically sold, but not forever unless they're used to users. Those are things that I think a lot of landowners and potential users of the system are going to want to know. So I thought we should have some effort to have a hearing, an initial hearing before the adoption hearing, and somehow contact we know who the landowners who indicated a desire to hook up are, let them know that we're having this discussion and get it out there. There was a 2-page summary about the ordinance in the packet. Thank you, Robin, for putting that together. Thank you also for drafting the ordinance. The Water Commission had, I think, positive input into it, with the understanding that the Water Commission is going to become the Wastewater and Water Commission if we approve this ordinance as it's written. And maybe you might add to this too, we do expect to see changes to the water ordinance coming too, partly to make sure that it's well synced with this ordinance, but also there's a couple of issues that have come up that we just want to, the Water Commission wants to correct.
Yeah, I mean, the water measures wastewater. And so you've got to get the two ordinances working together. So whatever we adopt in the wastewater ordinance has got to be mirrored in the water ordinance. So my suggestion is we bring them both for final approval at the same time and work that way.
And just to remind folks that it was a couple of months ago, during the early stages of drafting the wastewater ordinance, that the select board did make the decision to require hookup to the water system as a prerequisite to hooking up to the wastewater, for good reason, to be able to better manage the system.
Can we discuss it now or at the end of this, just the overall timing of when we want to adopt this? Just thinking on one hand, the system won't be built for several years. They're completed and commissioned and in operation.
When will that be?
That's a fine question. But
That Josh already knew.
But the sooner we have an ordinance, even if it's a draft ordinance, I think the better for prospective users that are asking to sign up and sign easements.
Yeah, I think we're going to end up changing the way we bill water and wastewater. And so if we wanted to do this, we want to do it so that we can prepare for it in April next year, because we have the water rates set for July 1st. So if we can work back from that July the 1st date, we've got to set a budget beforehand. And then, so if we could get to a point where we have a nearly final ordinance by the end of the year.
This calendar year?
This calendar year.
Okay, we're not talking fiscal year, just making sure we're on the same page.
And would that imply public hearing then prior to that, or once that draft is published, we would do a public hearing in the winter or something?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to do an initial one in the next couple of months as part of getting it finalized, but then we would have to have a formal public hearing to adopt the ordinance.
My experience is you could have public hearings in September and October, maybe early November, and then January.
Yeah.
If you want to get people interested.
So we might want to shoot for October, perhaps, after we get the legal review and make another set of amendments. And do you think that we ought to be making the changes to the water ordinance concurrently with that? And
I've actually drafted the changes to the water ordinance.
That's right.
I'm waiting for legal review. And then I'm having second thoughts on a couple of issues in the ordinance, not the way the ordinance is written, but percentages and rates that I'd like to do some modeling, because it has an impact on the income to the town. And I think we've got to do some modeling to understand that.
This is the Water Commission. I am on the Water Commission. It has reviewed some of the key issues that have come up in the water ordinance, and I think have given it a fair amount of thought.
Yeah, I mean, I think we know where we are. I think it's the final numbers that we. I mean, we're definitely putting our thumb on the housing, so prioritizing housing of the ordinance.
In the wastewater ordinance.
In the wastewater. It means we're prioritising both.
Yeah.
If we're making it more affordable for wastewater or more affordable for water.
But that's the really important piece of the ordinance, is it does have an allocation formula that targets a fairly high percentage of the available capacity for housing. And I think that's something that we should get public input on.
And just return to something you just said, to make it more affordable for housing, both water and wastewater. What does that mean?
I don't want to go into too much detail, just to simply, the way the wastewater rules work in Vermont is we are allocated 210 gallons for a single family residence. But you have a 2-bedroom apartment, it's 280 gallons. So a 2-bedroom apartment pays more than a 1-bedroom house, a 3-bedroom house. Makes no sense.
That's allocation though, right? Are they only paying on their usage?
The allocation determines fees.
Okay.
And so what I'm proposing is that a 2-bedroom apartment will pay less than a 3-bedroom house.
Right.
And a single ADU would pay less than a 2-bedroom apartment.
And then is an ADU a short-term rental, which is a commercial operation? So there are a number of different issues.
If it's a short-term rental, it's a commercial building. So it goes back to that 280 gallons.
So these are all issues that we're going to need to dig into. We're not going to.
Devil's in the details, yeah.
From a preliminary overview of the 6 articles, it seems like the Article 3 is going to be well, I feel like that one's going to take some time. The capacity allocation component, just as we're figuring out strategically how we're going to spend our time reviewing this. I think that's, and maybe
No, I think of it as 3 stools, a 3-legged stool.
Mm-hmm.
The ETT is building the system.
Mm-hmm.
The Water Commission is, Wastewater Commission is operating it,
Mm-hmm.
and the Select Board are directing it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really important the Select Board gets what's the balance between residential and commercial. I mean, over 50% of what is being allocated to the initial connection is commercial. So
just because of pre-existing high priority parcels.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's, I was an advocate for having an 85% allocation initially for housing. I think one justification for the system was it helps solve our housing problem. So I think we need to kind of follow through on that.
And it does tie up to the initial PER, which was done. So we're in line with the initial work the Planning Commission did.
Sure. But the 85% is, that's 85% of the reserve capacity beyond the original priority users, I think. So it's not 85-15 overall. It's
That's right.
85 of the remaining.
Because currently it's over 50 for commercial.
Yeah.
And that's not that number is not a permanent number. And that's a legal issue we're going to work out. The way the draft is written, correct me if I'm wrong, is that's in the initial draft, and the Select Board has the ability to alter that with a public hearing, not with a change to the ordinance.
Mm-hmm. Correct. It's a 2-year allocation for 85%, 15, and then after the 2 years you look at it again.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So,
I think one thing, Larissa, that some of the potential users will be interested in, like the use of the Article 5 that deals with operational things, but that's kind of a lot of that's going to be technical from DEC and not necessarily we don't have a lot of wiggle room that they're going to want to be aware of it. And how we enforce it is going to be important.
I'll just add the one, like in terms of timing, I think breaking this down, however the Select Board wants to break it down to like understand it, to move towards passing the ordinance is super important. I just wonder, maybe this conversation is short of understanding Article 3 and Article 4, maybe specifically while the Select Board is preparing to go out to have conversations for easements, how much would be good to understand, whether it's just a real aerial view or be able to understand the details a little bit more in preparation of these conversations with landowners.
well, Brian, I sent you an email from the property next door which we're connecting to water next month. So
Next door to this building?
Yes.
Yes.
And their charges for wastewater vary enormously between traditional methods of charging and what we're proposing in the ordinance. One of the questions the owners asked is, well, what are we going to pay for wastewater? And the answer is, well, the ordinance hasn't passed yet. So it's really doable. So I can give them their maximum because we've already talked about that, but I can't give them what it could be. And my worry is that we're going to frighten people off by having very high charges initially.
Yeah, I agree there's that risk, and to me the sooner we can get a draft ordinance out there in the public domain, the better, just to start having these conversations, increasing the public's understanding of how it's all going to work. And I think that Article 3, that capacity allocation piece, is going to be one of the key ones to get across to the constituents.
Yeah, there's two sides to the capacity allocation. One is the select board can reserve some for themselves, for emergencies, for, you're just holding it back. And then the rest of it is 85/50. So it's not all reserve capacity.
Yeah, and not for ourselves, for future uses.
Well, it's for the
What are you going to do with your shit?
It's for the unknown.
I can see the cover of. I'll stop.
Brian's got a new system.
Maybe a suggestion. I think the meeting on the 14th is going to be pretty busy. Maybe on the 28th, we do an overview.
I'm away.
Okay. I'm okay. If
I'm back on the 5th.
maybe the 12th we do the overview, and then the 26th dig in deep on Article 3. October now.
October, okay. Just making sure. I was going to say, I think.
And then really get into Article 3 in the meet after we've gotten that overview.
Can you restate that one more time? Sorry. So October 12th.
An overview of the ordinance, all the pieces of it, and some of it's going to be like Article 1. It's just going to be, it is what it is. There might be some fine tuning, but go through it, what each piece is, what it's trying to accomplish, and then really get into the details of Article 3 in particular on the following meeting day.
So you're talking about a good hour presentation?
Yeah, that would be a block of time.
Yeah.
And it would be really great if we could get this done. You said the end of the year. I would like to get it done October, November, before we dig into the budget too deeply.
Okay. Understand.
So overview on the 12th, and then Article 3 is skip a meeting to the early October meeting when Robin's back, or are you saying?
No, start, he's back on the first meeting in October, so do the overview, and then the following meeting, well, a big block of time for Article 3.
So basically not touching it until October?
I see.
Is that?
I'm okay doing something sooner. We could try to squeeze in the 14th. I do fear that we're going to have some parallel issues.
Yeah.
And you raised that, I think, rightfully so. Do you think, is that waiting too long?
I'd like to do some modeling before that.
To have information to present to the board? Yeah.
How is the select board organising to handle this? Who pulled the short straw?
Well, so that's part of the question. Is this something that we're trying to do entirely by committee in open meeting, or are we assigning individuals to draw the short straw?
Well, I'm working on it.
Okay.
I'd be glad to work on it with
So you've
somebody
already
else.
drawn.
I've already drawn one of them.
I've already drawn a straw.
You have drawn the short straw too. Why don't the three of us get together, if that's okay, before you go away?
Yeah. I got the whole of September.
Are you a holder of the short straw?
No, they are. They're both holding it.
Okay, great.
Do you want to hold this?
No, I don't need any straws.
There's another short straw coming up for you.
There's no shortage of straws.
Oh my goodness. Short straw shortage.
And I have to say, Fred has been carrying a short straw around.
Yeah, I think you have a pocket full of short straws.
This is a good straw because Robin is very organized and the ordinance is really quite important.
Yeah, I want to go through the ordinance in detail from a money side point of view, so we understand what's going to happen if we adopt it.
Yeah.
Because it's like a waterbed, pushed down one place, the other just comes up. You need to understand that.
Thank you. So you're an informal subcommittee, is that correct?
Yeah. Okay. And just a quick update. We've hooked up several properties to the water system this year. We're hooking up more.
Big picture on the 21st.
Big pictures.
Next door on the 14th. We've done a huge allocation for Lawson's when they build their new room. And because they are putting in a full kitchen, they're now a restaurant. So that required more allocation for water as well.
And we've hooked up the 3 buildings in Village Square, the Fuller House, the 4 units that the Shays did. So it's been a busy year for the water system, which is really great.
Yeah, we're in the water system's in a really good place.
Yeah. That's a good sign for wastewater.
Yeah, I mean, it shows you the light that's at the end of the work that we're doing now.
Yeah, I mean, combining the two, and you could have no more administration for water and wastewater, because it'll be the same bill. It's the same process. I mean, we'll get some savings.
So in the meantime, I think as we start thinking through it as individuals, if we have specific areas that we're like, this is something I'm concerned about, or I don't really understand X, Y, or Z, can we like direct them to somebody specific for consideration in your subcommittee? Is that a thing?
Any one of us.
Okay.
I'd do it that way.
Yeah,
It'll all wind up with Robin.
if you want just a high level, why was it written this way? I'm happy to answer it in the email.
Okay.
Yes.
There's some unconventional parts to the ordinance that may not be there tomorrow.
That's the thing, is I think maybe.
I would wait to dig in until,
Yes,
see if there's another draft comes out later in the week.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Although the initial email was positive. Although.
Yeah, I've marked up the areas that I hope she discusses.
Okay.
So timeline-wise,
And if there are like particular issues that come up that are sticky, it would be good if folks could read the next draft, because we might bring back some questions like we brought back do we want to require hookup to water? There might be issues like that that'll come back to the board as we move towards taking a deep dive into it.
I'd be surprised if there weren't.
so what was it about April 27 that was an important part of the puzzle here?
We set the budget for user fees in April, March, April, and we have to get bills out in June. So not that wastewater will be hooked up, but there's going to be a change.
Right.
And I think we're getting a lot of people signing up for water, and it requires looking at the numbers again, see what we're charging.
So is the idea to have the sort of preliminary hearing as part of a standard select board meeting, or would that be something separate? Or
Let's wait and see where we are and how far along we get with the first 2 meetings. But then in November, we could reach out to potential users and either do it as a special meeting or as a regular meeting. I think we'll be able to do it as a regular meeting. I don't think it's that huge.
And I think the expectation is that we make sure the public is aware of the conversations, and they are welcome to obviously attend and be engaged and understand the work that's happening all along. So it's not just something big at one moment.
I think you're going to get two groups of public. The public that are connecting now, and the public who want to develop.
Yeah.
And they'll have different perspectives.
So we've done information sessions before the public hearing, which I think is really helpful.
Actually, that would be the better way to go, I think. It doesn't necessarily need to be a select board meeting, but we could do an informational meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And you could time it to where it's most convenient for the local businesses or whatever.
Yeah.
That would happen after the October, so that would be.
Yeah, I think we should have an overview and a good, solid understanding before we reach out to the public in that way.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to like sketch in my mind kind of what this looks like time-wise.
Thank you.
I've been spending a lot of time at the well, I go past your building. Avarice is a nice word.
Stop that sometimes.
Why are you spending so much time at the well?
We've had communication trouble.
Oh, yeah.
And when Nate can't make it, I go down and I sit with the engineer. And we've now got it going.
Yeah.
It's working again. This is the communication that the tank says I need water, goes to the well. The well has really bad cell signal. But we've put a directional area in and it now goes to Kenyans where there's an area and we've been getting a reasonable signal.
Where are you now?
What was really interesting about it, we replaced the whole system and our asset replacement plan said it's due for replacement next year. You're now 16 years old. You know, we're replacing stuff. Good.
Well, and not every water system in the state has a reserve fund for equipment replacement, and we have a good one.
Yes. Awesome.
I'm going to stick around for the next thing. I just want to give some feedback.
So the next item is Downstreet Vermont update on property management, and the reason this is on the agenda, Jennifer got an email from one of the tenants raising concerns that some of their efforts to improve property management were backsliding. I think that was the subject line. And didn't direct it to the select board, didn't come to the health officer. Jennifer let Fred know about it, and Fred reached out to Downstreet to talk about, and forwarded that email, and didn't ask Downstreet to be here today, but Fred did speak with Jennifer Hilsup and has an update.
Yep. So anyway, the complaints were at least 3 bears have been roaming through the Vermont, getting into garbage. There has been garbage left on several of the porches. The roll-off unit that Downstreet put in there for just random stuff was full, and there's still dog poop around. I talked to Jenny this morning, yesterday, and she followed up with a written report. The contracts have gone out to start working on the water system. Is that what you know?
We know nothing.
No.
We've not been contacted.
Okay.
So Nate was going to call in there and check out what's...
Okay.
Nate, who was the facilities manager for Downstreet, no longer works there.
That's my Nate.
Yeah, but their Nate, they don't have a Nate anymore.
Well, not anymore. There is only one Nate.
Okay.
So, and that he was being very responsive, and that might be a glitch in what's going on in their communication.
I mean, we've got all the meters working again. We've got all the wires in there, but there's no signs that anybody's done any work in the meter pits
In the meter pits.
or repaired the meter pits. I
Yeah,
said,
so the contracts are just going out now.
yeah, okay.
They've started an engineering study for,
Are you gonna, I'm wondering if you might follow up with Jenny, because that contractor shouldn't be out there without Nate knowing it.
No.
No?
They know what they've got to do. They've undertaken what they're going
Because
to do.
Nate has been pretty serious that when you work on a meter, that he at least wants to know you're there.
Yes, he needs to be told that he can do that.
okay, will do. So they've started an engineering study on a new leach field to replace the old failed unit, which is huge. They've told the contractor to move to please replace the trash dumpster that's overfilled. They've ID'd a contractor to take out the trash mound. And if you remember the pictures, this is this huge pile of dirt and stumps and rough debris. So they got someone to remove that. They got a quote, and they're waiting for 2 more on the fencing to go around the dumpster. Water pressure issue is being assessed next week. I will loop that in.
Nate should be involved.
Nate should be involved, yeah. I'll call Jenny tomorrow. They're going to have a barbecue. Down the street is hosting a barbecue for the tenants on September 3rd at 6 p.m. And they have left flyers about dog issues and trash issues in everybody's door. Rather than mailing them, they took them right to the door. So some of the stuff has been taken care of. I drove around there. I thought the place looked much improved. Still got work to do. It's a work in progress for sure. But I thought the place looked a lot better than it had just a few months ago.
Yeah, I actually drove through about a week before this email, and I agree. I thought it was in bad shape, and they have made improvements.
Yeah, and some of the stuff just takes time. So.
But I don't think there's any action. I think this is an update for the board. We took it seriously, and I think it's important that we continue to let both the residents and downstream know that we are continuing to take it seriously.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the person who sent the email that ended up going to Jen, sorry, are they being, sorry, I forgot who that was.
Liz Stefano.
Okay.
No one number she's at.
Excuse me?
You know what?
I don't know. She's attended several of our meetings.
Okay, I just want to make sure that there's some closing of the loop and making her aware that we've heard that, and also that in future, if she has concerns like that, she should probably direct them to Fred, right?
Yeah.
So there was an email to Nate Quinn and Jenny Hislop on 7/24. So Nate Quinn must have still been working, I presume.
Yeah, I only heard this about a week or two ago.
So we did a full pressure test, and the pressure was 70 psi at 243 Vermont. We also did a total coliform test because they're questioning the quality of the water, and absent total coliform. So the water's fine.
How was 70 psi?
70 is about where we want to be. We run 105, 110 in parts of town. But every property has a pressure reducer.
Yeah. So, Fred, you'll follow up?
I will follow up.
And let Liz know as well?
And Liz.
Great, thank you. Is there any questions about?
I mean, that actually sounds positive, but they're addressing a lot of maintenance issues that have gone unresolved, and that 2 of those 3 complaints were become more like tenant communication issues, like don't leave your trash out in the yard. Feels like the whole community is having, the whole town is having bear issues. We certainly are at our house kind of giving up on composting because the bears come every night and knock it over. So that's glad to hear they're following through on some of it, albeit maybe slowly, but they are following through, it sounds like, on the other.
Yeah, I'm very pleased that they have got an engineer to study the leach field problem.
Yeah.
Because they've been trying to repair the existing leach field now for quite a few years.
At a certain
And
point.
it's sort of taxed, I believe.
Yeah.
So now that they're beginning the steps, get an engineering study done and looking to put in a new leach field. I'm very pleased to hear about that.
Yeah. Is there a timing issue, just in terms of the season is short to get out the what we call them, the water pit, water service entrances? It seems like we need to do that before the end of November or something, before the ground.
We stop any work in October. Yeah. But, the work that needs to be done is to remove the pipes and to repair them. Nate's biggest concern is when they do that work, will they then disconnect the meter skid? I'm not sure if it doesn't get done this year, it's the end of the world.
We're still reading the meters, basically it's...
All the meters are working.
Yeah, they're working,
Yeah.
so...
Yeah. So we had our first full meter reading last in June.
Yeah,
We'll
I think that
have another one this month, next month.
June.
Yeah.
Tenants' concerns were great that the meters are working, but they had concerns about just the mess that was left behind by the last contractor, and uneven ground and wet spots and all.
And valves were out.
That work, the landscaping work was supposed to have happened this summer.
Well, I think as I recall anyway, they didn't want to do that work until they resolved whatever needed.
Well,
to be
there was
done.
the other issue was the curb stops that were up above the ground and interfering in little driveways. So.
But don't they have to fix the pipes or remove the old pipes or whatever first before they're going to deal with that stuff?
The meter pit's all self-contained within the meter pit. They were constructed wrong.
Got it.
So we should move on.
Thank you.
Thanks, Robin. And thanks, Greg, for following up. So Tier 1B, status consideration and possible adoption of a resolution. Jonathan, do you want to present the purpose of this?
Sure, happy to.
Was before you do, the meeting packet only contained the resolution, not what Tier 1B is and what it's being proposed for, which was a little confusing. And I'm going to say right off the bat that I looked at the maps for the first time today, and I do have some concerns about this, but...
There's a little explanation, very short.
Very short.
And the time is very important.
So I'm sorry, Jonathan, go ahead.
No problem. And I'm happy to share what I can. So Tier 1B, Tier 1A, Tier 2 are the remaining designations under Act 181 after the removal of Tier 3, which was a big point of contention earlier this year, as you probably remember, along with the road rule, which would have restricted development. Tier 1A and Tier 1B are attempts to promote development and lower restrictions under Act 250. Specifically, Tier 1A applies to larger cities that have more local zoning and planning capability in terms of more members of staff, people who are equipped to handle full Act 250 review. That's really intended for towns or cities really like Burlington, where the city can replace Act 250 review for large-scale development. Tier 1B is a much smaller exemption from Act 250. However, it allows for removal from Act 250 review for developments of a reasonable scale for a community like ours, in the Planning Commission's view. The exact numbers I don't want to quote publicly without having it in front of me, but I believe it is up to 50 unit developments would no longer be subject to Act 250 review, which I think, and it also only applies to certain areas of town. So the idea is to shift the permitting burden from the Act 250 board to the town zoning administrator, which does put a little bit more work on JB, but removes a big hurdle to construction for projects that we'd like to see in development areas such as, and really limited to, the Village Center and the Irisville Business District, which are the neighborhood designated area that would be affected by this designation. And so, yeah, the way that the Tier 1B designation works is it is a by right opt-in designation that a town can make by a resolution of the type that I had prepared for today's meeting. That resolution is language from CBRPC, which they proposed for towns in their jurisdiction. And it essentially says, you know, that the town of Waitsfield would like to opt into Tier 1B status with respect to the mapped areas that are, and I believe the terms of art here are village center and village area.
Yeah.
But I may be getting that wrong.
No, that's right.
And you're right about 50 units, it's only for residential. So my concern is that the map shows a significant portion of Fiddler's Green as rural conservation, and it shows a significant portion of the village residential district as rural, and it shows a significant portion of the area north of the telephone company as village area. And my understanding was we were going to designate 1B for the village district, the village business district, the village residential district, and the Irisville district. And I have a problem doing 1B for these areas that either exclude portion of Irisville or include some of our ag residential district that are not village. In particular, the area north of the phone company, the town had a very controversial discussion about its future and how it should be developed years ago. It was decided that it wasn't village, it was ag residential, and we haven't had it revisited that, and to say that 1B would be appropriate there, even though it's ag residential, concerns me a lot. And I'm really sorry that otherwise I'm fine with the concept, and this just, I only came to this conclusion a few hours ago when JB sent me the map. I went in and asked him if he had a map today. And wish I had done this a week ago or a month ago.
So if I understand correctly, if we don't opt in now, that doesn't mean we can't opt in later if we, is that accurate?
It would require a plan amendment later. And I'm scrolling through it. I'm curious what you think, Jonathan. I would support a motion that said 1B status for limited to the Irisville village residential and village business districts in their entirety.
Because that actually lines up with water, wastewater coverage better, which we've kind of designated as the development areas in town.
So I believe that would be okay the way that this is intended to work. So there's two independent processes happening, right? There's the CBRPC future land use map process, and there is the Tier 1B opt-in. They are both coordinated by CBRPC, and to an extent in that Tier 1B status is something the town opts into that allows the town to exercise its authority over areas that are mapped under the FLU by CBRPC appropriately. So I guess my only concern, right, is in as much as the town wants to limit its authority to exercise its Tier 1B powers to a subset of what's mapped in the FLU, I suspect that would be okay, but I'm not 100% certain. It would not be possible for the town to exert Tier 1B authority over areas that are not yet mapped. So if there's areas that are inaccurately mapped as rural conservation that should become village growth or village center, or village area or village center, that will need to be addressed by amending the FLU map with CVRPC, and assuming we adopt the town adopts a limited resolution regarding its Tier 1B powers, I believe it would then require a subsequent resolution to loop those new areas in. I only hesitate because as a Dillon Rule state, I'm not sure that we have the authority to not opt in 100% when we opt into these categories. So
you see, I
I'm
think
a little bit.
You're right. My understanding is it is going to be required to be in the regional plan. I've reviewed 4 other regional plans last year, and they do not. They typically have a different designation for 1B than their land use designations. I did not see that on CVRPC's map. So I believe, and I was pretty involved in Act 181, that they do have the authority. It might require them to make some amendments before they adopt the plan, which they've not yet adopted. But yeah. I'll just say that very quickly reviewing the entire regional future land use map today, I found it troubling. But I'm not going to comment on that now. I'm just going to comment on the 1B status in Waitsfield. I think we could make the motion to say we want 1B for those areas and have CVRPC sort it out.
Are there any mechanisms in place, and I may have misheard Jonathan, where if these maps are, let's say the maps are bigger than the select board would like to consider for 1B, that there's a policy in town that limits the planning and zoning administrator, the DRB, whoever, that limits our growth to reduce that urban sprawl that doesn't encompass that entire mapped area? Are there any town rights, or
I think there is.
We don't.
I would suggest that we change the therefore be it resolved that the municipality hereby requests to have the areas designated as Irisville, Village residential, and village business districts in the Waitsfield zoning bylaws mapped for Tier 1B status. And I don't think there's anything that prevents them from doing that. It would make an inconsistency in how they're proposing their future land use map. But the Tier 1B requirements for zoning densities, wastewater, and water do apply to all those areas. And they don't apply to other areas that they're proposing for 1B status. They would have to designate that area outside of the village business. They'd have to prove that it has adequate soils to accommodate high-density development on site. So I don't think that they did the best job that they could have in reconciling our current and longstanding land use policies and infrastructure policies with their future land use map. And that might not matter for the future regional plan relative to the town plan. I think it does matter for Tier 1B because that's a select board decision. And I apologize for, we thought this would be one of those quick ones.
Yeah. Last words.
Can we, if you know, Jonathan, what's the timing on our opting in? I know this.
Yeah. So the hope is to have this resolution in whatever form is appropriate approved today, really because the CVRPC is intending to adopt its FLU, I believe in September, or maybe as early October, but shortly. And the act doesn't specify a deadline by which a town needs to do this, but because it's a by right election and the maps are being made now, the sort of guidance we've received is that if we adopt this now, if we agree to the setup as is, it's smooth sailing. We will have Tier 1B status immediately when the FLU is adopted, when this all takes effect. If we do not, there may be more just administrative logistical burden to getting that Tier 1B status recognized by the state. So it's just a question of, we don't know what the adoption landscape looks like after the initial pass, and we didn't want to delay Waitsfield status if we didn't have to. That doesn't mean we should make a hasty decision if it's not the right decision. And I will say, just looking at how the presentation from CVRPC came to us with their form language, it is a request that the resolution is a request that specific areas be mapped for Tier 1B status. So I actually agree. My understanding is that the state will grant by right any areas that are designated as village center and village area. So if they are on the CVRPC map, correctly is that we have the right to have them treated that way. If there's a discrepancy between what we're asking for and the map, CVRPC hasn't adopted that map yet, and they could adjust it before adopting it, which we could certainly ask them to do.
Right.
Alternatively, my understanding is that areas that are already designated as neighborhoods will become one of these village area or village center. And so since we have a neighborhood designation, I believe that if you specify the village, I'm gonna forget the names now, but the Waitsfield Village Center and Irisville are what we had designated as the neighborhood. And so I believe that there would be a straightforward by rights case to be made that those can be made Tier 1B as mapped under that neighborhood designation as opposed to the FLU. And that CVRPC wouldn't really have discretion over that.
And sorry, do we need to make a change to?
I would like to make a change to have the now therefore be resolved. And correct me if I'm wrong, is it the Irisville Village District, correct? I'm thinking the right name, for whatever the right name is, that the municipality hereby request to have the areas designated as the Irisville Village, Waitsfield Village Business, and Waitsfield Village Residential Districts in the Waitsfield zoning bylaws map for Tier 1B status. And I do believe, I'm certain they have the authority that they can do that, whether it's a hassle for them or not. But they can do it because Tier 1B was a separate designation in all of the other regional plans. It wasn't on the future land use map. It was a separate map. And it didn't always coincide with their proposed villages. In fact, some towns asked for 1B status for just a narrow portion of a district, and also some asked for a much larger portion of multiple districts, some of which weren't village character or designated for village.
I mean, Jonathan, do you think we can push this 2 weeks? I feel like the date was set in September.
I just do this. But that's fine.
Do you want, I mean, you can even type in exactly what you want right now. I can print it. And then we can, or not now, but I can have it printed and signed tonight. As long as we know exactly what
Jonathan, what are your thoughts on, do we need to have village center and village area still in there to get what you were just talking about?
No, I think so. Short answer, no. We can ask for whatever area we want. The only concern is, what is a by right designation and what is there any discretion over, and there doesn't need to be any further discussion with CVRPC to make sure that the map and our designation align in a way that works. But I don't believe that there is a problem because again, my understanding is that the designation that's already been obtained for those specific regions on our map creates the status that is a by right designation for Tier 1B. So there may be a misalignment between what the FLU says today at CVRPC and what our actual designation is.
Right.
And we can reconcile that, we can fix that. I guess my feeling is if you adopt a resolution to that effect today, I would rather see that we adopt the resolution today and then race to CVRPC to make sure that they get the memo that that's what we want, and they need to make sure the FLU aligns with that, rather than waiting to adopt the resolution and risking that we don't have it included in the immediate term.
Can't we send them a map with the outline exactly what we want, even though that should be pretty easy for them to know?
We can send them a map with the resolution. This should not be difficult.
Yeah,
I agree. It's a very simple thing to say, this is what we designate as our 1B, because it is our discretion.
Question on the naming. We also have the Village Historic District.
That's an overlay district.
That's an overlay.
Over the business district.
Okay. So we have Is it Irishville Commercial or just Irishville?
It's
Village District?
Irishville Village District, Village Residential District, and Village Business District are the three districts that comprise the village in Irishville.
Irishville Village District, Village Residential District, and Village Commercial District.
Village Business District.
Sorry.
And those don't leave out areas that have already been mapped that
Yes, water, sewer, and they do exclude the area north of the village that is not zoned for village district.
All right, do you want me to read this? So now therefore be it resolved that the municipality hereby requests to have the Irishville Village District, Village Residential District, and Village Business District mapped for Tier 1B status.
As designated in the Waitsfield zoning bylaws.
Waitsfield zoning bylaws.
And Jonathan, I'm sorry, had I come to the planning commission meeting during the presentation, we probably would have gotten it worked out before the 11th hour.
That's all right. This is how things get done. I'm just glad to see it moving forward.
As designated in the Waitsfield zoning bylaws.
Yes.
Okay.
Good catch.
Do you want me to read this one more time, or are we comfortable? The municipality hereby requests to have Irishville Village District, Village Residential District, and Village Business District mapped for Tier 1B status as designated in the Wakefield zoning bylaws.
Well, I do as designated map 4.
As designated.
As designated in the bylaws, map 4, 1B status.
Basically, after you list the different districts,
Yes.
the names of the districts as designated in the Waitsfield zoning bylaws, mapped for Tier 1B status.
We don't need a motion because we're going to sign this.
No, we need a motion to adopt this.
And it's just, there's a spot just for Brian's signature. This is what CWC gave us.
But it says as adopted at this meeting.
And there's Mr. Oxford comment.
Make me ready. I'll make it current and vote later.
Is there a motion?
We just get it read one more time?
Yep. Municipality hereby requests to have the Irishville Village District, Village Residential District, and Village Business District as designated in the Waitsfield zoning bylaws mapped for Tier 1B status.
As designated in the Waitsfield zoning bylaws, comma, yeah, right?
As designated in the Waitsfield zoning bylaws mapped for Tier 1B status.
I'd make a motion to approve that resolution.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
We got a hand up.
No.
We got 2 hands up.
We got
there.
6 hands.
It's 8:45.
I know.
Night.
Why are you telling the baby?
We kept it. We kept it.
Yeah. Party. Thank you.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Thanks, Jonathan.
So we had the work plan review on the agenda, and when Larissa and York and I typically meet for every meeting, and I had suggested, I'm calling you out, I'm sorry,
It's okay.
that we put in there if time allows, because we didn't know whether time would allow, but because he put in a application for Northern Borders for the covered bridge at the last minute, without having that on his radar, because we didn't get information from Miles until the last minute. Both Larissa and I said, don't kill yourself, but he decided to go ahead and kill himself and submitted the application, which was a job well done, the pre-application.
And with it sounds like it was Josh Schwartz and also JD, I think, helped out. So it's basically people around here are awesome and work really hard. Thank you.
So totally understandable that it's not there. But the point I'm making is we had anticipated that we might have time for this to go through it in detail. I will say I went through it and I was impressed with what's been done, and I was impressed by what's in progress. Could we put it off? It is 8:45. We have a couple of things we need to attend, and we have 3 or 4 executive sessions.
we have to put it off.
Yeah,
I think we do
definitely.
too.
Okay, so we're going to table.
And we need to go back to Meadow Road Bridge, just if nothing else.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I got ahead of us. So we're going to table agenda item 8.
And I think it's never wasted time to be looking at that.
It isn't, and it's good to get it. I hope it's okay.
I did it on purpose. I was like, Brian, we're going to keep it on just to discuss for a second. Thank you, Dave, for recognizing that.
I think if nothing else, just having it reintroduced into our consciousness, just since there's so many moving parts, so that it sort of reprimes that.
Yes.
It actually was good because it's not as updated as it could be, but I actually did spend a while going through and I did update.
No, I noticed several
things.
items that have actually been done.
It really is a good practice.
Yeah, it is.
So, Dave,
And we will make room for it. It'll always be on the agenda as time permits.
Well, given the consideration of distance.
From this point forward.
Oh, goodness.
Meadow Road Bridge, yes.
So there's 2 moving parts of Meadow Road Bridge. I think I laid it out in the town administrator report. I also included the pre-application that was submitted on time for the Timber for Transit NBRC by the Board of Regional Commission. So I feel good about that. Tyler Billingsley, who's essentially our town engineer, and I did talk last week. He basically said the RFP was not responded to because engineers are so crazy busy this time of summer. He himself is working on building 4 or 5 bridges right now, like actual building. But he did send us a contract. There are some questions about the contract, but overall it's great. The preliminary design and coming up for a cost to go to bond in March will be $30,000. A lot of that will be the geotech, as he notes, and geotech is just not cheap. I mean, I support it. Tyler and I did talk about if the NVRC grant, if we're asked to apply fully and then are awarded it, that clearly would deviate what the town decides to do. I mean, the town could still decide to build a covered bridge with or without the grant. And he doesn't feel comfortable being the person for that, so that's not in this contract. And he said we could figure that out, so I don't think we'll sign this contract because he got this to me Friday. But I don't foresee anything else changing if the board's okay with it. So I just wanted to make sure, we're trying to stay on the timeline to be able to be ready for a March bond vote, and this will allow us to do it.
I mean, this positions us well for parallel actions. If we get the grant and it looks good, you know, it was money well spent understanding the site. It will probably help with that process if we do the geotech.
The geotech will have to happen.
We'll have to have it anyhow.
Anyway.
And this way we'll have ready by the end of the year a conventional bridge concept, 30% design and a cost estimate, or we'll have a covered bridge estimate.
And the truth is also, Tyler has taken, you know, he's gone and visited the site. He's pretty sure we're going to put 2 new abutments in anyway, but that's still relevant for the covered bridge. I mean, most of this is going to be relevant.
There's some overlap in those.
For sure. I don't think the abutments are going to be that much different.
He is recommending, for example, just out of interest, so people understand what's happening, like preliminarily, he's looking at probably being a 2 foot taller than it is right now to be adequate for flooding. If anybody actually, this is a good question for Fred, if you have any good pictures from any floods that show how high the water is, he said that would be really helpful. But yeah, right now he's thinking 2 feet higher.
It didn't go over the bridge.
I've never seen the bridge topped.
I think that's because the floodplain, that field, Mills Field floods more often, I think, than any field in the valley.
I can look out my kitchen window and I can see it coming right
It's
across.
really normal in the spring.
Yeah, it's the first place in the whole valley that floods.
But I think a higher bridge everywhere is a good idea.
Yeah.
Because the next floods might not be like any of our past
We
floods.
want to accommodate the continuing change that might happen in the next 30, 40 years.
Yeah, and the biggest ed plus is that, I met with Rachel Czar, which I think I've touched on with A&R, and she's happy about the bank foot width, which actually Tyler was really happy about, because that would have been a really big deal.
I don't know if it falls within the scope of the 30% design, but I do feel like it's important that we're, for both sort of potential scenarios, that we're future-proofing as much as possible. Yes, for emergency vehicles, but that also is probably worth touching base with people who are doing agricultural work to get a sense of what they're anticipating, because I know that it's been a non-trivial for them to bring more town inventory around.
York met with the fire department, and we were talking about a 50,
we thought it was 52,000.
52,000. They're saying it's more like 90. And I think that's consistent with what we heard about the loaded agricultural vehicles. Miles said it can be designed as the same capacity as a steel bridge. And that, if that means 90, we will need to have it, if we would go that route, we're definitely going to have a structural engineer confirm that.
Mm-hmm. But I think the state reg says that even agricultural vehicles shall not exceed 60,000. 60.
Not 60 tons. No, I don't think 60 tons.
I do.
Is it that high?
We need to look at it.
60,000, that's 30.
60,000.
Research showed like a loaded manure spreader is more than 60,000. It was.
They're 105.
It's like 100 or something.
If they're fully loaded.
But I think the point well taken, that we need to make sure that we consult with the heavy users and accommodate as best we can.
And I've definitely been having those conversations, because there's, I think, some misconceptions of what a covered bridge can be, because we're used to our village covered bridge, which, this new one would be 14 feet tall, which is correct. It will be built to be adequate for our needs, and everything points to that that's possible.
And that's the whole point of this program is to prove covered bridges are cool and we can build them really well with modern materials.
I will say that there were issues, like there always are, submitting the NBRC pre-application, which doesn't feel like a pre-application. And anyway, they helped me work through those. They talked me through it, and then I submitted, and they said thanks, and they said we were very excited to get the pre-application for this. We're really excited about this project.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
I thought the application was great. It really was well written and compelling as well. Thank you.
So if I think we will need a motion, and maybe to say once the contract is finalized to be adequate for a potential NBRC grant, that, I can sign it, or whatever you want the motion to be. If you're ready for that.
I would be okay. One thing though, in the design, I don't know that it needs to be mentioned in the contract, but I would make sure that he's aware of the desire for a pedestrian component.
We talked about it. Yeah. And he has the RFP. He had no issues with the RFP.
So do you want to approve the proposal from Tyler? Can we just propose and authorize you to sign the contract? I'm fine with that. This contract seems straightforward to me.
He's very good.
So what are the thing that you might need to tweak though is what happens if we get the grant for covered bridge?
Yeah, because right now the wording essentially is if it passes bond, then he continues the work, which is pretty standard. But if the bond passes in March,
well,
it might be for a covered bridge.
If the bond passes for his conceptual design, because the bond might pass for the covered bridge. But
we could look at the wording. That could be in the wording of the bond vote. That's actually true.
Well, but I think that needs to say in here. So a motion to approve the contract with one change, clarifying that if we bond for a covered bridge, he won't have that contract. Or however you want to word it.
It could be, and I haven't been able to talk to him, but potentially he could still get the contract and he subcontract out for the covered bridge engineering, because he doesn't feel comfortable doing all of that. But That would be fine too.
Can I just confirm one thing before motion, which is this would, Tyler's work would give us a preliminary cost estimate for a traditional bridge.
Correct.
That I think we'd want for our due diligence and for voters.
For sure.
Anyway.
Absolutely. Because, I mean, even if we were gung-ho on the covered bridge, I think we're going to want to explain what the cost difference is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it may be, there'll be potentially savings with an $800,000 grant. So.
Yeah, what's the match again?
It's 50/50. So right now, the cost estimate for the covered bridge is about 1.71 million.
We're a little suspicious of
I was
that.
gonna say, that's not with any additional engineering though, right?
There is engineering costs in
There
there.
are, okay.
Yeah, if you're going to do two of them, I'm not sure that the abutments are included.
No, they are. I'm skeptical. Miles and I spent a good bit of time talking about it. I'm just skeptical. I'll give an example. There's 50,000 for engineering in it, which is substantially lower than the standard engineering fee for a bridge, which, you know, according to this is 14%, which is pretty right.
Sorry, that estimate comes from where?
Which estimate?
The estimate for covered bridge.
That comes from heavy timber and an engineer he's been working with. I mean, he has been having conversations with you. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, but it first came in at 1.4 Thursday, and by the time we submitted the pre-application, it was 1.71. So we were working on it. And that was partially informed because Tyler and I had talked, and he understood then that there was most likely that we had to do 2 abutments. However, it's possible that because of FEMA funding, I think I'm increasingly thinking that it makes the most sense to demolish the bridge, build the 2 abutments pre-July 2028. FEMA funding cover basically all of that potentially. FEMA and I have talked about this. We're in agreement that that could work. And then you don't have to ask the federal government for an extension if we're not actively constructing, then still hopefully be in construction at some point in 2028. But that creates a path that reduces risk greatly, I think.
For the federal.
Yeah, because that's 404,000 that so far has not been argument.
That's huge.
That is it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what is the motion you're looking for?
I think a motion to approve the proposal and authorize York to sign the contract with a clarification about
A change in scope. Or
a change in scope if we decide to engineer a covered bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that-
I would
do you
so
think-
move.
Yeah.
Second.
Was this motion, Dave seconded, any discussion, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
This is really great. We've got the proposal in for the grant for the covered bridge, and we're moving ahead with a conventional bridge. I feel like we're like suddenly making more progress than we have.
FEMA's happy about it too.
It's great.
Good, I'm glad the team is happy. I have had a discussion with one of the select board members in Moretown about probably at some point in time we will be rerouting heavier vehicles through Moretown, either around Hurdle Road or as they think best for the village. So they are aware that it's coming. We just don't know exactly when.
A detour?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just put it on their radar, and
Yeah.
if they've got thoughts or anything, to get back with us and open up that
Yeah.
communication.
Thanks, Ron.
Nice new sidewalks in Moortown Village.
Yeah.
Both sides of the road.
So we can be quick on the town garage update. Just to let folks know, it is moving fast after the delay, after Bread Loaf. We've had 2 meetings with both the Connor and M&M. We're meeting every week, every Monday morning. And there's a lot of preliminary decisions being made. One thing, the last time we showed a site plan, the idea was to tear down the existing garage and build a larger garage over it. We've been reconsidering that, thinking about relocating the garage to a new location. This is where they stockpile materials for several reasons, and then looking at whether or not to keep a portion of the existing garage for cold storage and avoid the deconstruction cost. And that would also allow the the guys to use the garage during construction. There's a lot of other issues related to that. We've kind of downsized the building by one bay. That would be especially easy if we did have this space, but we also don't want to have this be a white elephant, so we're kind of figuring out what would its future potential be. Made other interior changes, like having a wash bay that's completely closed off, which makes the interior of the building. So Fred and I have been attending the meetings with Josh and the design team in New York, and it's a work in progress. It's a moving target. It's changed today because you met with Josh and the architects
several changes this afternoon.
So it's coming together. We're looking at different alternatives. There will be various alternatives for, we're gonna have to make a decision about what configuration to have. So this is kind of looking at the options. This is where we're looking at now. We are hopeful that it'll include getting three-phase power from Route 100 to here, which would be a huge saving for mechanicals, for heat pumps. It would be a big deal to allow us to use heat pumps. We're working with Green Mountain Power, York is, on whether there's incentives for that, what the cost would be. It's much less than I think we initially thought. We are looking at with them at battery storage and other backup systems, and what's the primary system, what's the backup. York or Fred, I'm trying to make it quick because there's nothing definitive now, but I just want to let folks know it's happening, and we will need to have a check-in soon when we answer some of the questions that we have, just to make sure everybody supports the direction we're heading in.
I had a question just around the what do they call it, phase 2 environmental, I think it is. Does this change in location, does that help us? Does that help to not disturb the old building?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I mean, so there's a lot of moving parts right now. There's been a lot of work done. Environmental phase 2 is happened. They've done the borings. There's wells in there. They're going to monitor those wells this week. It's going to take a few weeks for us to hear back. It's the can of worms has been opened. So whatever the report finds, and we are confident the report is going to require remediation. The question is that remediation, how easy is that remediation going to be with the building still standing versus is there potential that the building standing is going to make a more expensive remediation? But we don't know the answer yet. Yeah. And Tiffany with KAS Environmental is really great. She goes, we'll cross that bridge when we get there, because we don't know. Yeah. We know that there's something. The other thing is the geotech, which we did for the new site. We knew there's going to be a lot of excavation. We haven't been able to do it yet for the new site. And that's going to be a few weeks. So early next week, we're actually going to meet with the engineer and have Josh Rogers, our road foreman, do some diggings to help inform, our site plan. I mean, today we're talking about moving the salt shed, trying to really create a flow that's going to be really efficient, so we're not stuck with what we had been doing just because. And creating that narrative so the public really understands what the challenges have been and how this is going to really be important moving forward.
So the initial goal is to have a cost estimate for a bond in the middle of September. Today we said, that might be unrealistic, and we might be making a decision near the end of September on what the cost estimate for what we would be bonding for.
Which is okay.
I mean, it's okay. It gives us a shorter lead time for public outreach, but if it takes that long to have a good number, it'll take that long to have a good number.
Legally, we can do it through the end of September. And Josh, and the other thing I'll just mention now, I really like the opportunity to maybe, because now we're talking about going to bonds.
Yes.
Sit down and work through what that looks like in terms of, assuming the bond vote passes, just creating that Excel sheet and coming up with a
it's a big capital budget issue, so another short straw we drew.
I mean, Josh is really good at it, so I thought about starting to tackle, but honestly, doing it with Josh would make more sense. Anyway, I think we're really excited. Everyone's really excited. MH2 is working very hard. Connor brings amazing questions to every meetings. The emails and phone calls back and forth are many, many per day. Everybody is really invested and working hard on this project, and it's going to result in a better garage, which is really
I
exciting.
will say that Connor, they're very quick to say, well, in Berlin, the garage we're building, or the building in Swanton we're building, or the garage we just built in East Montpelier did this. So it's really informing the design process.
That's awesome.
This whole CM process is working great.
We also have a meeting with Aegis. I met with them at the town site last week at the garage site, and having a meeting with the bigger team this, I think, Thursday. To look into that, and that could also equal other incentives. That could only be rooftop, side note.
Is Josh finding time to attend these meetings and excited about that?
He is very excited about it, very motivated, and he's great. Everybody acknowledges he's the most important person.
Today when they're talking about, well, what if we put the loader here? It's like, well, we need to ask Josh that.
Yeah. Immediately, Josh, Mitch from MH2 and I met this afternoon, and within a half hour, there were multiple changes. And it's better because of it.
I think this looks awesome, but I'm not going to let it do it. If you, once you get kind of towards the end, just to have a cliff notes of why this, because that'll help inform our communication.
There's
going to be, people are going to ask a lot of questions about why are you doing this, and we talk about that every meeting because we need to know, what the savings is, what the alternative is, and why we're not doing the alternative.
I think what we're doing really well is balancing what the road crew needs, not just today and next year and 5 years, but like 50 years. Acknowledging this garage is being built for definitely more than 50 years. But also saying, what's the cost-benefit analysis? What's the return on investment? And we ask that question every single time and saying, what are all the options? And I think we'll be able to really create a story that tells, why we end up where we end up.
How we deal with the existing garages, it could cost us more, it could cost us, we really want to figure that out, how it fits into the picture.
And engineers are going to start looking at the existing garage next Monday to say, what is it? Is it worth saving? Is it possible to save? What does that look like? Because that would inform, everything. Really.
To be clear, it can't be saved for its current purpose because it doesn't work, but there might be other purposes that it can serve.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Fire hydrant quotes for the corner of Eastbourne and Ralston Roads.
So this is the Griffin and Sons in Kingsbury.
Yep, there's 2 quotes.
Are they?
Same scope.
Yeah, I was going to say they're like orders of magnitude different.
There is a slight difference. There's a little bit more in the Griffin, but that cost difference is about $8,000. So it's still...
The cost difference for the more that they are...
The Griffin, you could probably take $8,000 off.
Okay.
Not actually quite that much, but yes.
Got it.
If that helps.
And is John Donaldson aware that this is moving forward?
Yep. John Donaldson and Kingsbury and I met together at the spot, and that went well. That was actually Cody does their cost estimate. He's the one that did the sidewalks also with Kingsbury. And Chris Griffin, this is the updated one. It's significantly higher than the one he gave us last year. But last year we didn't have it in reserve. And this year, I think I put in the reserve. We have $30,900 in the reserve for it. So even with the $8,000 reduced from the Chris Griffin, we actually don't have enough in the reserve, which doesn't mean you can't take from it designated, I suppose.
We don't have enough in the reserve for the Griffin contract,
Correct.
but we do have enough in reserve for the Kingsbury if we were to opt for that.
Correct.
Well, it makes it easier.
The only thing that is not part of it that would not be nearly as much as Chris Griffin's is Josh Rogers and I, we have kind of a better plan for how to make it adequate for fire truck filling, and that would essentially be taking part of Ralston and increasing that road width
Like a
about the size of a fire truck. and Josh is very busy right now, like they're not gonna get everything done, and see what it would cost to add that to the Kingsbury quote. But Josh, we just talked about that today, so I don't have a cost for that. He does not think it would be a lot.
But that's not something that's covered with the Griffin quote either.
Well, yeah, no, it is. The Griffin Co. has a culvert, and the new plan is not to do a culvert, it's just to bump out with an adequate ditch.
So can we approve it and amend it later if we need to? And that could be part of a consent agenda if it's, $2,000 to do a pull out.
I think so. I mean, we have it in reserve, so.
Yeah. Motion?
Presumably we're doing a Kingsbury.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
yeah, just,
whatever
I thought we were all on the same page.
Have fun with the motion, yeah.
Whatever the motion is.
Yeah, I can make a motion to approve the Kingsbury quote for the install of fire hydrant on Rolston Road as described in the board package.
Your second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I don't want to show my age, but was anybody else on the board when this first came to the
Yes.
select board? You
Yes.
were?
Yes, I
It
was.
didn't, so I thought it was like 8 years ago.
No.
And then it came back up, right? When I
Yes.
was there. But-
I don't know if it
But
was
when
the
it
first.
first came was when John Donaldson came and offered it to us.
Oh, yeah, no, I wasn't at that point, sorry.
It was quite a few years ago.
That was, but the second time it came up.
Some things.
He is very persistent.
Well, that's great. And
Well, it's wonderful that he's
And actually,
giving us this.
I'll add, this is a dry hydrant, which I feel very good about. I think it's the right move.
Number 11, federal award cash management cost allowability procedures. Consider adopting written procedures governing how the town manages cash draws and determines allowable costs on federal grant awards. My understanding this procedure is consistent with current practice. It's just we don't have a written policy.
100% correct.
Any discussion?
This is presumably not that you wouldn't be perfectly capable of drafting this whole thing, but was this language you found somewhere?
Yeah, this is like boilerplate. And again, everything is what we already do. This is our practice by law.
So this is just
Right.
codifying that, and then we can put it on the website as one of our policies.
Motion?
I lost. I'd make a motion to have York adopt written procedures. Or are they already in here? Are they ready to go?
Yes. Okay, sorry, in the packet.
And there's a spot for Brian's signature,
What page is that on?
which is in
It
the
is
warrant.
page 34.
So a motion to approve.
Yeah, you got it.
I'd make a motion to approve and adopt the federal award cash management and cost allowability procedures as drafted.
Second?
Second.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Consent agenda. Motion on that?
I would move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town administrator's report, anything that wasn't in your
I'd just like to
very
say,
detailed report?
the great thing is the stormwater permit is almost finalized for the gravel pit. I'm saying that because it's taken many months to get to this point. And the municipal project manager, I have not shared that yet. I just wanted to make sure. Josh Schwartz gave me some ideas. So I fixed it, sent it out to the team. Josh Schwartz gave some recommendations. I fixed those. And I do want to send those out the next few days. I think there's some interested parties. And I wanted to make sure Chach was good with the changes really in the board before it went out, because I know Chach had some thoughts about it.
Gotten there yet. But
Well, I added the firm basically, fix all the spots that were blank because they just were remnants of the water MPM job. But anyway, I just want to make sure that we're aware that that work is moving forward. Oh, I wanted to also say the FEMA culverts, old center facing and center facing culverts. that will be 75% funded through FEMA. We had the bid opening on Friday. There were 6 bids. They ranged in cost from $689,410 to $990,000 even. I suspect that probably in 2 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, that will come to the board for approving a contract. So that was great. We're pretty happy about that.
That's awesome.
And that's in final permit, like all this, we have 7 easements I need to go get signed, which I'm really looking forward to doing. And I'll just mention the RFPs, people are pretty upset that they're not working great. If you read the administrative report, you see what we've done, but they're sending us new parts, and we are in high hopes that that's going to really fix the problem.
Is that covered under any kind of warranty? We're not.
Yeah, it's totally under
okay.
warranty.
I was going to say this isn't something we're.
Yeah, they're being pretty responsive, it seems like, besides actually
It's taking,
getting
it
them
takes
fixed.
time. Well, I think we might have to pay to get them installed, but that will be pretty reasonable.
I also noticed that the CME flags, one of the little buckets is down on the west side of.
Down?
As in, like, there is no bucket to put a flag in on the west side of the street. Or maybe I'm.
I drove.
I saw that they all migrated to one side.
Well, this after, maybe I missed it. I don't know. I saw that all the flags were on one side.
They
as I
do
was
kind of
turning to the
migrate.
right, but then I looked on the other side and I was like, where would I put them if I was going to pull over and
They're kind of
redistribute
hidden.
them?
They're kind of.
Okay,
it
so
is
then
kind of
maybe-
They
hidden.
double check, but they
Yeah, I
do
was gonna
migrate. They like to be on one side.
I thought
Every
there was
time I
some-
cross, I redistribute.
That's, I mean,
Yeah.
not all heroes wear capes, you know?
I love using it out there. I think it's awesome.
So thank you, Fred, for that.
Yeah.
I actually think we should think about it in front of the Irisville Country Store and be your house.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm happy to order them. You guys, they're $200.
There are no buttons that you have to worry about. And I know it's not quite the same, but
And V-Trans is cool.
Yeah, it's better.
They haven't complained yet.
they haven't complained yet.
Okay. Let's try.
Is that clear enough guidance
What's that?
for York to order those?
I don't know. Should we make the decision that?
I move that we buy them.
Waitsfield Telecom said I would put them up. I met with the head engineer at Waitsfield Telecom.
Just the signs seem to align well there.
It'd be easier than it is
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Would
mean,
that-
do we need a
would
motion?
that just be in?
We don't need a motion.
I put a motion on the floor.
Well, is there a second? Although it's not a warrant item,
Okay.
but we're going to do it anyhow.
We're going to do it. Cool.
I feel like it's also a small enough dollar amount
Yeah.
that I think it's within.
That's right. We never made a motion. Just Jacksonville paving?
Josh, I asked Josh Rogers, and he reached out to Pike on Friday, and Pike said within the next 2 weeks, which, to be fair, I think we've heard since early June.
The next
But
2 weeks
it means
since early
it's
June.
still, every time you ask, I'm like, oh, within the next 2 weeks. And now here we are, mid-August, but that means we're still on schedule. Oh, also, the line striping has really been a challenge, but Josh did finally get a hold of LND striping, and it is on their agenda now, on their timeline to do soon. So at any rate, that is also moving forward. And that's for Bridge Street and East Warren Road.
Select Board Roundtable, 9:18.
Quickly, there was a question regarding fencing or some sort of toddler prevention. Basically where the maple trees were taken out, there's that little park. There's been a question about that. I don't actually know who one would ask for that, because I don't know, the town?
It's town.
It's the town?
Yeah.
Okay. So in any event, there have been several requests, mostly by one person.
What is the issue?
That basically there's nothing to prevent tiny humans who can go on 2 feet from running from the park into the road. And there's a question as to whether or not that is something that could be assisted with.
There used to be.
Well, there's like a plastic chain.
Yeah,
that
basically
is
like,
not
would it be
adequate according to some
possible,
parents.
would it be possible to do something more substantial? I am forwarding this message from another person.
Is that the library?
Perfect.
Maybe ask the children's librarian thoughts on that, because they're the ones who are having programs with kids out there a lot.
I mean, she was
Yeah, I
here,
was gonna say, Anna.
she was here tonight.
Yeah. Okay. Are you?
Yeah, I'm
reaching out?
happy to
Okay.
do that.
Super.
Oh, is that, someone, Anna?
Yeah, and then, that's all I have.
Josh? Brett?
Yes, the Friends of the Mad River was here a couple weeks ago. They're putting on a block party September 8th, 10th.
I was gonna say, I think it's 10, yeah.
September 10th. And Waitsfield Emergency Management is going to have an informational table set up. And I'm going to have a list of vacancies from our LEMP.
Oh, great.
Thinking that the people that would attend this party, this block party, are concerned citizens and all, and might be people who volunteer to fill out some of the vacancies on the LEMP.
Cool.
And might be an opportunity to list other vacancies for the town government. Because I think these are the target-rich environment for the type of people we're looking for. To round out some of our vacancies. But we plan on putting the table up.
I'm good.
Okay. Why don't we go to executive session?
We have 4, I know that Dave is going to do executive session. I think for the dog, I would probably say probable civil litigation because she had a contract with the town. Otherwise, I couldn't figure out a way to have an executive session to talk about the dogs. But since she had a contract, I think that is very relevant. I think that's going to need a finding, and that's from VSA section 313A1E.
Yeah,
That's
and
my
C
take.
needs a finding as well. Just, I think in A1. Okay, so, sorry, say the contract.
313A1E.
A1E, yeah. Probable civil litigation.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that? It's the only way I could figure out an executive session for the dogs.
Well, also, he did mention if we took one action, which we may or may not have authority for, you would hire a lawyer.
Good point.
Yep, say that. So I'll just do the ones that don't require findings first. Move to enter executive session to discuss a disciplinary or dismissal action against the town employee under 1 BSA 313A4 and to invite the town administrator to attend.
Second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye. Move to enter executive session to discuss the negotiating or securing of real estate interests easements related to the community wastewater project under 1 BSA 313A2 and to invite the town administrator to attend.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Then C, so move to make a finding that premature public knowledge of contract details would clearly place the town at a substantial disadvantage.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then I move to enter executive session to discuss the town garage construction contract with Connor Contracting.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then I move to make a finding that the town is subject to pending or probable civil litigation to which the public body is or may be a party.
All in favor?
And then I move to under executive session sorry, I forgot to say 313. Let me just say 313A1E after I say that part. But move to the executive session under 313A1E.
And second.
All in favor?
Aye. It is what time?
9:25.
Bio break.